the daily life of a secret agent in American TV series. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 476 Code War. Genesis, a high-tech company that does not exist in Ron's memory, has its headquarters in the Los Angeles River Basin in Fernando Valley. In Ron's memory, this area should have been the headquarters of Facebook. This also proves from another perspective that Ron should be in a parallel time and space. When Ron and his group arrived here, it was terribly quiet. Why is there no one here? Isn't John in the company? Jack asked in astonishment. No, he should have been waiting for us to deliver the goods to the company long ago. As for why there is no one here, Ron looked up at the brightly lit but empty company building, and a smile appeared on his lips. Maybe he doesn't want his subordinates to see him in his current state? With Skynet's intelligence, they should understand that it would be more convenient to act as one person, right? What is this? Traitor, who knows? Here Ron threw a gun-like object and a backpack with a harpoon to the governor. Strong electromagnetic interference cannon, unfinished version. Because time is urgent, only 2 can be made, 1 for each of us. Those harpoons are its bullets. Use them sparingly. There are only 20 rounds in total. Each bullet can buy you about 1 minute of escape time. Sarah, you follow Jack closely. You are one of the T-800s. Remember, if you accidentally separate, exchange secret codes when you meet again. If the secret codes don't match, just shoot. He can change into anyone's appearance, and the others will rush to support immediately after hearing the gunshots. Secret code? But I don't know what your secret code is, Sarah said in embarrassment. You don't need to know, because even if I tell you now, you won't remember it. You just need to stay with at least one of us all the time, Ron said, and was the first to push open the door. The big screen at the door was counting down to the launch of the Genesis system. It suddenly went out the moment they entered the door, and then a virtual image of a child was projected from the screen. I know who you are. John told me that you want to destroy me. Jack was about to speak, but Ron had already walked up and gave the child a big slap. You are Skynet. I am becoming Skynet. The child completely ignored Ron's physical attack because he had no entity, just a holographic projection, but Sarah still pointed the gun at the child angrily. I know what you are and what you are going to do. What am I going to do? You are here to kill me, the child said as he grew up a little bit and became a boy of 12 or 13 years old. But it's too late. If you want to kill me, you should ask him. You humans are always keen on killing things you don't understand, but I want to tell you that even if you use all the bullets in the world, you can't kill me, because John came out from behind the screen. As soon as he started to speak, the governor immediately rewarded him with an electromagnetic bullet modified from a harpoon. Just as John was about to struggle to pull out the harpoon, a current flashed on the harpoon, releasing a strong electromagnetic wave, turning his wound from a penetrating wound into a hole. What the hell is this? A weapon specially customized for you. I wish you have fun. As he said that, Ron stepped forward and gave John a big slap. This time he finally hit him. Bah, traitor. Then, Sarah, Jack, and the governor behind him followed suit and gave John a big slap to follow Ron. Open the door. Walking to the underground mainframe, Ron walked straight to the metal door in front of him. The governor stepped forward and kicked the door open. Behind the door was a long corridor. At the end of the corridor was the computer room where the Skynet mainframe was stored. Outside the glass window of the corridor was a spectacular large machine. Except for Ron, everyone was very familiar with it. John has another time machine. It's not finished yet. Only the quantum field part has been completed, the governor replied indifferently. Ron was a little surprised. You seem to be familiar with this place, because during the long waiting time, I have been working in the construction team here. In addition to being the place for the time machine, this is also a Terminator production factory. The governor pointed to the assembly line below where there were already several T-800 skeletons. If it weren't for the lack of chips, we would have been surrounded by T-800 Terminators now, but you'd better be careful. I don't want to fight with so many of you. Ron casually stuck a bomb on the assembly line and said, now split up, Jack and I in one group, Sarah and T-800 in one group, start. Ron casually hung the bag of bombs on Jack and walked to the other side of the computer room. Why do I have to take both bags? Of course it's because I'm the father and you're the son. Ron smiled proudly. took out a bomb from the bag hanging in front of Jack and stuck it on the server and activated the bomb, and Jack followed suit. You humans are always full of lies. Bang! As soon as the Skynet projection appeared, Ron shot the projector with a gun. Sorry, I don't have time to listen to your nagging here, but as the holographic image dissipated, something strange happened. A figure walked out of the dissipated holographic image. Ron and Jack quickly raised their guns. It's me. We've run out of bombs over there. I came to get some more from you. It was the governor, but Ron still didn't let his guard down. Code. Cheyenne Warngatihu, Timo is 1.5 meters tall. We are one of us, the governor said, and was about to take a step forward and reach out to the bag containing the bomb. However, before his hand touched the backpack, Ron and Jack had already pointed their guns at his head. Bang! 2 shotgun shells smashed the governor's head. Then, the head that was smashed into pieces twisted like silver mud and condensed into a head again, but this head condensed into John's furious face. How did you find out? I already know your code, idiot. Ron showed a wicked smile, aiming the Terminator-specific harpoon at John's chest and shooting it. Since you already know the content of the code, don't you know that all codes will be invalid if you use one? The electromagnetic harpoon pierced John's chest and made a hissing sound. Ron kicked him directly under the bridge. 5 minutes later, John, who had regained his human form, turned into Jack and found Governor Sarah again. We don't have enough bombs. My dad asked me to come to you to ask for some. Code. Cheyenne Warngatihu. The governor pointed his gun at John vigilantly. John felt his super chip being pressed against the ground and rubbed, and he was so angry that he deformed. Damn it. This code again. What is the answer to this damn code? However, waiting for him was another electromagnetic harpoon. Bang! John fell to the ground with the harpoon in his chest. And the governor and Sarah walked over his face without any hesitation. Chapter 477 Return Home. How are things going over there? After completing the installation of the bombs on the east side, Ron found Sarah and the governor. As soon as he arrived, 2 guns were pointed at his head. Code. Heavenly King covering Earth Tiger, chicken stewed with mushrooms. Is that okay? Ron raised his hand and read out the code. Sarah looked at the governor. She didn't know if the code was right. She didn't put down her gun until she saw the governor put down his gun. Have all the bombs been placed? No, we are placing them while John is destroying them. This is useless. What should we do? The countdown to going online is about to end, Sarah said in annoyance. John, who was hiding under their bridge and attached to the back of the bridge, sneered. Do you really think the computer is an idiot? If you install a bomb in front of me, I'll be surprised if I don't dismantle it. There are so many servers. As long as one can be preserved, then part of Skynet's data can be protected. Although Skynet will be greatly damaged, it will be able to repair itself in time. This is the real horror of Skynet. Who said it's useless? Haven't you already successfully delayed John? Ron smiled mysteriously, put his bomb backpack on the ground and opened it. What was inside was not a high-explosive bomb, but a strange-looking machine. On the other side, the governor's backpack was also opened, and inside was a machine that looked the same as Ron's. At this time, the energy slots on both machines were 100% charged. At this time, John realized that he had been fooled. Although he didn't know what it was, he was at least sure that Ron would never use a useless thing to fight him in the final battle, so he quickly flipped up from under the bridge. But as soon as he showed his head, he was nailed to the ground by Ron's harpoon and couldn't move. Ron brought a total of 20 electromagnetic harpoon bombs. He and the governor each carried 10. Now Ron had 4 left and the governor had 5 left. Stupid, you don't really think I'm relying on these bombs to destroy the server, do you? Ron said proudly with one foot on John's face. What on earth is that? Sarah asked puzzledly as she looked at the machine. The super electromagnetic pulse generator. The instantaneous electromagnetic pulse is enough to burn all electronic equipment. The only drawback is that it needs to be charged for at least 2 hours before it can be used. Sheldon and Dan sponsored it. Ron took all the remaining electromagnetic harpoons from the governor's back and nodded to the governor. The governor immediately ran outside. He was also a robot and was also within the attack range of the super pulse generator. So, have you thought about how to say goodbye to this world? In front of your parents? To be honest, as your grandfather, I really don't want to admit that I have such an unfilial grandson like you. As he said, Ron pressed the switch, and the 2 machines made a buzzing sound. Then, Two invisible ripples spread out from the machine as the center, and all the electronic equipment that the ripples passed through were scrapped. Even John, who was nailed to the ground by the harpoon, made a crackling sound all over his body and suddenly smoked, and then spontaneously combusted in trashes like a vampire seeing the sun, and the entire server room suddenly became extremely dark. Okay, it's all over, we have to leave here. Ron lit 2 candles with a lighter and gave one to Sarah. Sarah followed Ron's steps. Dad, he will be okay. Of course not. Why do you think I let Jack go out? I prepared an isolation box for him and asked Jack to help him get in. Look, they're all fine. Outside the Genesis company, Jack and the governor were waving to them. Dad, I'm so glad you're okay. Sarah cheered and threw herself into the governor's arms. I will be fine. Even if I am, I will come back. The governor nodded firmly. Thank you too, Ron. You're welcome. Ron shrugged. Faintly, he felt his heart throbbing. If what he guessed was correct, he might have to return to his own timeline. You have to know that Skynet no longer exists. You are free. From now on, you can choose your own life and live any life you want. That's so happy. I didn't know what to do for a moment. Sarah shook her head excitedly. She had spent most of her 20 years on the run. With the disappearance of Skynet, she suddenly lost her goal in life. How about having a romantic relationship like an ordinary girl? I think my son is a good candidate, Dad, Jack yelled in shame, but Ron just looked at Jack deeply. I'm so happy to see you grow up to be a brave adult. I was always afraid of giving birth to a freak like your Uncle Sheldon, but seeing you, I feel relieved. Take care of yourself. Also, if you see my future self again, don't forget to say hello to me, Dad. What's wrong with you? Jack was surprised to find that Ron's figure was still a little blurred, like a cartoon character with faded color. It should be the power of self-correction of time and space that is pulling me back to the original time and space. Goodbye, son. Ron felt more and more dizzy. Finally, he closed his eyes and opened them again. There was no Jack, the governor and Sarah in front of him. Even Genesis company disappeared, leaving only an empty street. Ron recognized it with his memory. He did not leave Los Angeles, and was even at the door of Howard's house. In Howard's house, there was a burst of ghostly howling like a pig being slaughtered. Thor and Dr. Jones. One likes to play with lightning, the other likes to play with bones. A warm smile flashed across Ron's face. He rang the doorbell and Rajesh opened the door for him. Ron, why are you here? I heard that you and Howard are forming a band, so I came to see it. It sounds like you. Ron was considering his words, how to give an objective evaluation without hurting the feelings of the two. It's great, isn't it? Howard and Raj looked like you're here to praise me. This is our own music, science rock, a kind of rock music with science or science fiction as the theme. We are geniuses, if you say so. Then Sir Ron was eating snacks and drinking tea comfortably, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This is life. What's the point of fighting and killing every day? But speaking of music with science as the theme, I have written a song before. Do you want to listen to it? You? Have you written a song too? The two were shocked. Of course, Ron looked at their expressions and knew that Sheldon probably hadn't told them about his glorious deeds. Lend me your guitar. Ron tried the notes, cleared his throat and began to sing. The universe was once hot and dense. It finally exploded 14 billion years ago. Wait and see. The Earth began to cool down. Autotrophic organisms came to cheer. Chapter 478 Father's Day. Ron played and sang a song by himself, which stunned Raj and Howard. How is it? Do you like this song? I love it very much. From the Big Bang to the evolution of human civilization, this song is simply a work of genius. Raj launched a starry-eye attack on Ron, but Ron dodged it flexibly. Why are you looking at me like that? It's disgusting. How can you say that? I'm looking at him with admiration, Raj complained, but Ron was unmoved. Admiration? I think you should look at lizards with admiration. Bengal monitor lizard is not bad. Bengal monitor lizard? How is it possible? Howard searched for pictures on his mobile phone with the curious attitude of a scientist, who would be interested in a creature that looks like this, but it looks pretty good. Raj looked at the picture on his mobile phone, his eyes flickering. Ron quietly moved to another sofa with his butt covered. You are really worthy of being an Indian. Tomorrow is Father's Day. Stewart's comic book store will hold an event and invite our band to play. Do you want to come? Howard invited Ron. If we can play this song together, it will definitely light up the whole place. Father's Day. Ron looked at the date on his phone. After spending a day in another parallel time and space, the time in his original world did not move at all. It was still the date before he left. I won't go on Father's Day. Why? Do you want to celebrate Father's Day too? Whose baby did you get pregnant? Raj's eyes flashed with gossip. Who said that you have to get someone pregnant on Father's Day? Isn't the Godfather a father? I'm just visiting Uncle Pritchett's house as the Godfather. I wish you guys have fun, but you can play my song. I allow it. Visiting relatives? Then will Sheldon go with you? He clearly made an appointment with us to go to the comic book store together. No, he doesn't have to go. The purpose of visiting relatives is to increase feelings. If you bring Sheldon, it means you're going to make enemies. Ron said so. Raj and Howard nodded in agreement. It was agreed that they would visit the Pritchett family on Father's Day. The next morning, Ron came to Pritchett's villa in Beverly Hills with gifts. Good morning, Uncle Pritchett. This is your gift. Ron put a box on the ground. I heard that you have handed over the company to Claire. I hope this thing can help you pass some of your retirement time. Pritchett did not rush to open the gift box, but shook it next to his ear. He did not hear any special sound inside. What is this? The commemorative edition M1911 of the Rock Island Arsenal, and the membership card of the Kangaroo Club. I think it is the most professional shooting club in Los Angeles. Of course, if you want to come to my base to play, I welcome you with open arms. I remember that you have a lot of old people who are about your age or older than you who can play with you, but their level is a little high, and I am worried that you may not be able to keep up. Hey. What do you think of me? Pritchett felt a little unhappy. I am a serious retired Navy. My marksmanship is definitely much better than ordinary people. In this family, except for you, my marksmanship should be the best. I happen to be making sausages. You can eat a little first, but don't eat too much. This is today's main meal. Ding dong. As he was talking, the doorbell rang again. This time it was Gloria who went to open the door. But he only looked outside and closed the door again. Gloria? Who's outside? Pritchett asked curiously. My sister, Sonia. Since your sister is here, why don't you invite her in? Pritchett walked over and opened the door. Sorry, come in. You came all the way here. Come in and sit for a while. Hello Uncle Ron. Hello Aunt Sonia. Manny came down from upstairs and greeted politely. I still have some luggage in the car. Come and help me get it. Sonia pointed to the van outside, and Manny readily agreed. Why did you let her in? After the two had left the door, Gloria went over to question her husband aggressively. You need to talk to her. I think she's here to apologize. You don't know her as well as I do. As Gloria was talking, Sonia, who was leading Manny to the car, suddenly opened the door, kicked Manny inside, quickly locked the door, and drove away, leaving Pritchett stunned at the door. Great. Now he has kidnapped Manny. Gloria patted Pritchett's shoulder and walked into the house without looking back, as if the person who was kidnapped was not his own son. Pritchett was anxious. Why are you so calm? Shouldn't we follow them or call the police? It's just a kidnapping. In Colombia, this kind of thing is very normal, just like brushing teeth and washing face. Ron quickly cleaned up a plate of sausages, wiped his mouth with a napkin and said, Don't forget, it's one of the largest sources of drugs in the United States. What do you think drug dealers do when they are not selling drugs? Worship in church or screw in screws in the factory? I almost forgot that you are still here. Ron, what do you think we should do now? Noticing Ron's presence, Pritchett asked anxiously as if he had found a savior. Don't worry, kidnapping has a certain fixed process. I think Gloria should be very familiar with it. Is it the way things are done in my hometown? Ron looked at Gloria, and Gloria nodded confidently. Sure enough, the phone rang soon after. Gloria picked up the phone and talked to the other end in Spanish for a few words before hanging up. What's going on? He wants me to trade Manny for the hot sauce business. The hot sauce business was a sideline business that Gloria had come up with recently when she had nothing to do. She carefully brewed it with her family's secret recipe. When the first batch of hot sauce was made, she gave 2 bottles to Ron. Even Sheldon, who was so picky, liked it very much and designated this hot sauce as a special one for his Thai food night, to replace the Thai sweet hot sauce that came with the restaurant's dishes. However, because there was no good sales channel, apart from the ones given to relatives and friends, only a few bottles were sold. Great, then she owes $400. And the child can come back. Pritchett clapped his hands happily. No way, Gloria said firmly. A wise decision, Ron applauded. He now admired this decisive woman more and more. That's her child. Ron. I really doubt now if I made a wrong decision. If Joe is in danger one day, will you stand by and watch like you are now? He is your godson." Pritchett looked a little angry. Ron poured a cup of coffee and put it in front of him. "This is not standing by and watching, Uncle Pritchett. In my opinion, this is the correct way to deal with kidnappers. The first step is to not let yourself be led by the kidnapper's demands. Otherwise, you will always be passive." "Really? It's really not because you don't want to care." After drinking some coffee, Pritchett finally calmed down. He continued to ask in a doubtful tone, "But what about Manny? If this is a real kidnapper, then I will arrange people to locate and track him, and then attract his attention by paying the ransom, and take the opportunity to quickly raid the hostage's location and rescue the hostage. But this is not a real kidnapper. Sonia is still Manny's aunt, right?" Gloria nodded. "That's even simpler. According to Colombian tradition, unless it's betrayal, they will never kill their family, so the decision is in our hands." "What do you mean?" "I don't quite understand. Although Pritchett has made such a big business, he knows nothing about the underworld. Ron means that we don't need to pay attention to her. We have all the bargaining chips, but he has your son, so what?" "Ron just said that. Didn't you understand?" Gloria remained calm. "What can she do to Manny? Will she raise Manny for us? It won't be long before she will take the initiative to send Manny back. Forget it. I don't care about you. You just need to bring Manny back. I want to have a few more drinks. This is obviously my holiday." Pritchett drank the coffee that had been replaced with wine at some point. Ding dong, the doorbell rang again. This time, before anyone went to open the door was opened by itself. The Dunphy family, Mitchell and little Carly's family came in. "You're finally here. You have no idea what a wonderful show you just missed." Ron walked to Claire and Mitchell and said gloatingly. Noticing that the siblings had strange expressions, Ron seemed to smell gossip. "Wait, it seems that there's not only a story on Uncle Pritchett's side, but there seems to be a story on your side too. Listen to me, this is like this. Zyaoka's grandmother, the one who called me a sissy, she died, and I was alone with her at the moment he died. Now his whole family thinks I was the one who fanned the flames." Ron puzzled. "This doesn't sound like a big deal, as long as Zyaoka stands on your side." "Right, that's the problem. Zyaoka is completely on his family's side," Mitchell said angrily. "But it seems that what I heard is not like that. Just now, Lily told me that Zyaoka's grandmother left gifts for everyone in her will, including you. Did you know that? If I hate someone, I will never leave him anything in my will, not even a pair of socks." "Really? That's great." Mitchell happily walked towards Zyaoka Lily on the sofa. As Ron said, they had already started to open the gifts. Ron was curious and followed with a wine glass. "This is yours. Your great-grandmother gave you a watch." Lily opened the box, took out the note inside and read. The letter said that this was taken from the wrist of a German devil by your grandfather, and now it belongs to you. "It's so touching." Zyaoka stroked the watch and burst into tears. Ron glanced at it from the side. The key of the watch was indeed very old, but the brand was a British brand. A German old man wearing a British watch? This is simply a joke. It seems that Zyaoka's usual bragging should be a family tradition of bragging. At this time, the benefits of not bringing Sheldon along were reflected. If Sheldon were there again, he would definitely expose the lies of little Cam's grandmother and make everyone embarrassed. Ron would only praise her for being beautiful and ask Lily to open the next gift quickly. "This should be yours, second dad." Lily took out an exquisite box from the suitcase and handed it to Mitchell. "Let me see what's written in the letter." Mitchell opened the letter with great anticipation. "When Zyaoka brought you home for the first time, I thought I would never like you. I was taught to hate people like you, but when I saw you made my grandson so happy, I couldn't help but care about you. Zyaoka, I misunderstood her." "Yeah, I said you misunderstood her, right? Let's put our hearts away first." Zyaoka nervously tried to grab the letter from Mitchell's hand, but Ron noticed there was another line of words on the letter. "Wait, there seems to be another line of words. You haven't finished reading it yet. What's written behind it, really? Let me see. Besides you, who else is more suitable for my beloved Oriental fan? I hope it won't make you miss home too much." Mitchell continued to read, but he became more and more confused. "Why do I miss home when I see the fan? I don't think this is for you." Ron put the fan in Lily's hand. Sure enough, the Oriental folding fan was more suitable for the Asian Lily. "Oh yes, Grandma said before that she would give me a fan. This is mine." Lily jumped up happily holding the fan. "What about my gift?" "Okay, the time for opening gifts is over. We can talk about the rest when we get home." Zioka was nervous and began to sweat. Ron was watching the fun and thought it was even more interesting. He directly used his foot to open the suitcase when Zioka was not paying attention. There was only a small transparent bag containing used lipstick inside. If you put all the gifts in a suitcase, I think this should be your gift. Ron handed the bag to Mitchell and picked up the letter himself. All my old lipsticks, you can use them well. Big sissy, haha, what an interesting old lady. Ding dong. Just when the scene finally came to a very bloody moment, the doorbell rang again. This time it was Sonia who sent Manny back. Gloria glanced at Pritchett with pride, as if saying, see, I said it would be like this, right? I guess you and your husband must have some problems to solve now, so I won't bother you. I'll go over there and take a look. Don't forget to tell me the result later. Ron pulled Lily up and said, Manny was kidnapped just now. Do you want to hear the story of the kidnapping? This Father's Day is really messy, but I like it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 479 Lock Matter. As soon as Sonia entered the room, she pushed Manny in front of Gloria and said angrily, I'll give you Manny back. I have to send him back. I'm going crazy because of his big round eyes. Compared to your bright eyes, my eyes are just lifeless balls of flesh. Manny stared at his aunt affectionately and said sweet words. Ron felt that this child was not simple. Okay, go get me a bottle of beer. Sonia pushed Manny aside unhappily. Pritchett quietly approached Ron and asked worriedly, is it their custom in Colombia to fall in love with your aunt? Probably not. It's just that Manny is a bit abnormal. If you need it, I can introduce you to a psychiatrist. Manny doesn't need it, but if you send me his contact information, I don't mind talking to him, Pritchett said hypocritically, then raised his head and shouted to everyone, Gloria, you two go over there and quarrel. Everyone else, we're ready to eat. Come here, kids, don't you need to take care of those two over there? Ron pointed at the Gloria sister and her husband. Those two looked like they were about to fight. Uncle Pritchett shook his head helplessly, let them be. My life experience tells me that a man should never get involved in a woman's quarrel. Pritchett sat at the head seat, and the others sat around the table. He raised his glass, thank you for paying respect to me on this great holiday, but I'm not the only father here. You three are very happy to be born in such a family, aren't you? Pritchett's eyes fell on the three children of the Dunphy family. Indeed, the best job of my life is to raise two extraordinary daughters and a good buddy who can't ask for more. Phil's voice was already a little tearful. Ron nudged Claire with his elbow, take care of your husband. I didn't eat breakfast. I'm almost starving. Everyone at the dinner table seemed to have their own concerns, but Ron himself was the only one who was really thinking about eating. Right away, Claire had just calmed Ron down when her youngest son Luke broke down and cried, I'm sorry, Dad. We didn't go home directly, but stayed in New York for another 5 days. I also saw your favorite magician and Jelly. I wanted to tell you so much, but they wouldn't let me. Oh, my God, your mother and I, very angry. Before Phil could finish his words, Claire quickly took over the conversation and glared at her husband. You stayed in New York all the time, but you didn't tell me anything. Listen, I don't know what this mess is, but I know this is my holiday, and I want you all to calm down. Pritchett finally couldn't sit still and started to smooth things over. Just as he finished speaking, a cuckoo sound came from Joe's pocket in his arms. Do you have a mobile phone in your pocket? Is this my mobile phone? Pritchett took out his mobile phone in surprise. I've been looking for this mobile phone since yesterday. Why is it here with you? I can steal things, Joe announced proudly. Wait, Phil, you sent me a message. Yes, Claire asked me to send you a photo of the wardrobe in the hotel we stayed in New York. She thinks the design of the wardrobe is very creative. How about it? Isn't it great? Pritchett looked at the photo, his expression becoming more and more shocked, but what shocked him was completely different from what Phil thought. Halixi. Is this your naked body? Claire took the phone. It turned out that when Phil took the photo of the wardrobe, he accidentally took a photo of her who was taking a shower. You are arguing? Okay, forget it. Manny came over after hearing the noise, but accidentally saw the photo, and quickly turned around to find his seat and sat down. I have had unclear thoughts about a relative today. Okay, let's end this matter here. Claire quickly hid her phone behind her, but didn't want Heidi behind her to see it. Wait, it's raining in the background of the photo, but it didn't rain when we were together in New York. God. You also stayed in Los Angeles, and you didn't take us with you. Okay, we lied too. Ahem. Pritchett, the real protagonist of this party, finally got angry. Am I the only one who remembered that today is Father's Day? Do you know how bad you performed today? One of my sons has a kleptomaniac, the other has fallen in love with his own aunt, which is disgusting enough even by your standards, and I have a daughter who forced me to see her like she was when she was just born. However, before he could finish his words, he was interrupted again. This time it was the Mitchell family who arrived last. Little Cam was walking in front, and Mitchell was chasing after him and saying, "Come on, little Cam, kiss this little sissy of mine." Mitchell's face was covered with lipstick that Grandma left for him, making her look like a cheap special industry worker. Pritchett felt sick. At this time, Ron did not forget to add, "You forgot that you have a son who likes to dress himself up as a cheap skilled woman, Uncle Pritchett." How licksy. Pritchett looked at his disappointing younger son, and compared with Ron sitting next to him, he couldn't help but curse in his heart. The Pritchett family has always been very strong-willed. Since his sister Mary married George, who only knew how to ride a motorcycle, and he himself became the most successful furniture businessman, he has always regarded himself as a winner and often called George's house to show off his new car, new house and other things. But this situation began to change after the birth of their children. George's eldest son still looks silly like him, but the second son has been very extraordinary since he was a child. His mature behavior does not look like a child at all. Fortunately, his daughter was not much worse. Occasionally, he would brag about it when he called Stupid George. But after Stupid George's second pair of twins were born, he could no longer laugh. Stupid George's third son was also a genius. How could that idiot have two genius sons, while he only had an average daughter and a son with severely low athletic ability, so low that he doubted whether he was his own son? What's even more ridiculous is that one day, this son actually told him that he was out. Today, this son has gone from being a homosexual who looked a bit manly to coquettish XX with heavy makeup. Well, although all this had nothing to do with Ron felt that he couldn't help but say something now. He quickly finished the sausages on the plate and stood up, touching his half-full stomach. "Uncle Pritchett, I think Mitchell must have a special reason to dress like this, right?" Ron winked at Mitchell frantically. Mitchell quickly wiped off the lipstick on her face with her sleeve, but it would have been better if she hadn't wiped it off. Once she wiped it off, her whole face became even more seductive and unbearable to look at. Seeing this ugly face, even Pritchett, who was angry, couldn't help laughing. How the room was suddenly filled with joyful laughter. As for the others, even when Claire went to New York for vacation, she still had the wardrobe business in her mind. "She has run your company very well. As for my godson Arthas, he did a great job, little guy." Ron rubbed his godson's head. "When I was his age, I didn't have such nimble hands and feet. I would be caught stealing money from Mary's wallet. Maybe he will become an agent who is more powerful than me in the future." Pritchett's expression relaxed, and Ron raised his glass while the iron was hot. "Happy holidays to all fathers and godfathers. Cheers." The atmosphere finally returned to harmony. "Ron, can you please not bring your big dog into our apartment? I hate this unpredictable furry thing." In the apartment, Sheldon roared loudly at the person next to Ron, while he had already stood on the table, looking at the Malinois circling around Ron with fear. "Come on, this is a real military dog. All your orders will be executed by it. How can it be unpredictable?" Ron rubbed the dog's head indifferently and said carelessly, "But you are better now than when you were a child. I remember when you were a child, you would be so scared that you couldn't even make a sound when you saw a big dog. At least, you can still shout a few words now. That's just an instinctive stress response of human beings." In ancient times, people relied on this stress response to avoid making too much noise when they were frightened and disturbed large wild beasts, thus allowing the human race to continue. "Really? But you said that this stress response should not include peeing in your pants." Ron scratched his ears and pointed to the corner of the apartment. "Where's the grain pile?" The Malinois obediently ran to the corner and laid down. Sheldon got down from the table with lingering fear. "What language did you speak just now?" "Dutch." Ron raised a smirk at the corner of his mouth. This dog was the military dog that Reese gave to him to raise when he was looking for Finch. According to the custom of the military dog training center, it was trained with Dutch commands, so that when encountering an unsuspecting enemy, it could achieve an unexpected effect. But how could it be Ron's style to raise a dog for others for nothing? In order to give Reese and Finch a little surprise, he specially used another Dutch language to replace the original command. I believe that when Reese takes the dog back later, his expression will be very exciting. How is it possible? What word did you just say? I remember that no matter what kind of action-related words in Dutch, there is no pronunciation like yours, Sheldon questioned. I'm talking about a local Dutch dialect. What's so strange about you not understanding it? Can you master all dialects? That's right, Sheldon just agreed, and suddenly found something wrong. Wait. The Netherlands is so small in total, less than 4 Los Angeles. Where does the dialect come from? The Los Angeles that Sheldon mentioned here does not refer to the city of Los Angeles, but Los Angeles County, a total of 12,000 square kilometers, while the land area of the Netherlands is 41,000 square kilometers, which is indeed less than 4 Los Angeles. Who says a country with a small area can't have dialects? We all live in the same building, and you can't understand Mrs. Poloniva's dialect on the 3rd floor. That's because Mrs. Poloniva is an immigrant from Eastern Europe. She speaks Polish, not an English dialect. I swear, I will initiate a vote with the residence committee to ban large dogs in the apartment. I absolutely don't want to live in the same building with this guy. Don't think I don't know that the so-called residence committee of this apartment is you. I'm not a fool like Penny. Ron glanced at Sheldon contemptuously. Don't worry, I won't keep a dog in the apartment. Someone will come to take it away soon. This is someone else's dog, okay, I will allow it to stay here until 5 o'clock at most. If no one takes it away, you must take it away, no problem, Ron agreed readily. He and Reese agreed to meet at 4 o'clock. Reese was a man with a strong sense of time and would never be late. By the way, how is the research on the robot I gave you some time ago going? Is there any progress? Give me some good news to make me happy. Sheldon shook his head. The biggest progress now is still here with the battery. Combining the technology you gave me before, plus the power supply of this robot, we have made a new battery. It only needs to be as big as a mobile phone, and it can make a car run 5 kilometers. I think it's all the fault of this big dog. Ever since you kept it in the laboratory, I have been having strange dreams. Strange dreams? What kind of dreams are they? Ron asked with interest. Dan and I came to Los Angeles to live together, without Leonard, and then Dan fell in love with Penny, and you asked me to make electromagnetic weapons to deal with robots. I made you a gun that uses electromagnetic harpoons as weapons. This dream is really too real, Sheldon said, recalling the situation in the dream, and Ron, who was sitting opposite him, had opened his mouth in surprise. Isn't this too amazing? Sheldon can even sense things in different time and space. Although the principle is unknown, it is likely that something happened in another flat time and space, and was transmitted to Sheldon through dreams in some way that Ron did not know. Well, this dream is really interesting. If you have such an interesting dream next time, remember to tell me. I would like to listen to it. Maybe you don't know, but I have been reading psychological research on dreams recently. As he said, Ron stood up and planned to get something to drink from the refrigerator. Who knew that Sheldon suddenly spoke again? Other dreams. There really are. I also dreamed that you took me to a zoo that occupied an entire island. The zoo was full of dinosaurs. It would be great if there really was such a zoo. Ron's hand trembled as he opened the refrigerator. Wait, Sheldon, let me ask you a question. Have you seen movies like Jurassic Park or Jurassic World? Quotation mark. Chapter 480 Unpleasant Fishing and New Position. No, what movie is that? Sheldon asked curiously. Ron almost couldn't control himself and roared, God, you don't want me to play like this, right? He just beat the robots in the future world, and now he can't let him beat dinosaurs again. What a joke. Ron really couldn't imagine taking Sheldon to visit Jurassic Park like going to Disneyland. The scene was so beautiful that he didn't dare to watch it. Nothing, that's the movie plot I conceived in my mind. You know I have been wanting to write a script and make it into a movie recently. Ron hurriedly drank Coke to cover up the abnormality. If you are interested, you can go to Bernadette's laboratory to have a look. Their company seems to be conducting genetic research on ancient creatures recently. I heard that it seems to be based on the DNA extracted from the dinosaur blood of mosquitoes in amber, and the rest is supplemented by genes from frogs, crocodiles, etc. If their company didn't allow outsiders to enter and leave, I really want to see how the progress is. Sheldon talked to himself, not noticing that Ron was already lying on the sofa in a daze. Forget it. No matter how powerful dinosaurs are, They are still carbon-based creatures. Even if one bullet can't kill them, you can shoot a few more bullets and use up a magazine. I don't believe that you can't kill a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Ron, there's a phone number for you. Leonard, with several big lipstick marks on his face, took the wireless phone from the next door. Eating and drinking for free is only a secondary purpose. Ron hangs out at Sheldon's place every day, mainly to make room for the newlywed couple. There's no other way. Who made Sheldon a giant baby? He can't live without Leonard. Because Leonard mentioned that he wanted to swap with Ron and move in with Penny, Sheldon was in a bad mood for 2 days. He locked up everything related to Leonard in the apartment and made the apartment look like it was before Leonard moved in. Ron said that Leonard and Penny were just attracted to each other, and Sheldon and Leonard were true love. Of course, if Dan is included, it's hard to say who is Sheldon's true love. "Hello, who is this?" Ron asked carelessly, but when the other end of the line started to speak, his cynical attitude immediately disappeared, and he suddenly sat up from the sofa, replaced by caution and carefulness. "No problem, I know, don't worry, I will definitely go tomorrow." It was the first time that Leonard saw Ron so serious, and he couldn't help but poke Sheldon. "Who is your brother talking to?" From his movements and demeanor when he answered the phone, it can be judged that this is a person he really doesn't want to contact, but has to contact, and the way they get along makes him very uncomfortable, so I judge that he must be talking to the anorectal doctor on the phone. "Yes, he must be making an appointment for anorectal examination," Sheldon said proudly. Just at this time, Ron's call ended, and Leonard simply asked Ron directly, and by the way, he repeated Sheldon's guess. Did Sheldon guess it right? It's right, it's almost the same person as the anorectal doctor. Anyway, if they do the same job, they both deal with dirty things every day. Sheldon proudly puffed out his chest. "Who is that?" Leonard was confused by this ambiguous statement. "The current president, Francis Underwood, President Frank, asked me to go fishing tomorrow," Ron said helplessly. Meeting the president may be considered an honor in the eyes of ordinary people, but it is not a good thing for Ron. He knows what he has done. Not long ago, he secretly let Peck go. By the way, the kid disclosed the US government's surveillance plan as soon as he fled to Europe. Now the whole world is suspicious of electronic devices related to the United States, suspecting that the US government is monitoring them through these electronic devices. In fact, their suspicion is of course correct. Just the attack on Fort Detrick planned by Ron before, no matter from which angle, it is already considered treason. Therefore, Ron always feels guilty when he is summoned by the president. But fortunately, Ron has seen a lot of storms, so he doesn't reveal any flaws on the surface. "Oh, my dear little wolf cub," Frank gave Ron a big hug as soon as they met, and hugged him to introduce him to the people around him. "Donald, you should have heard of the IRS wolf who set a new tax record in Los Angeles last year, and the hero of the Ministry of Finance. If we have more tax officials like him, the financial situation will definitely be much more abundant than it is now." "Hello, Mr. Vice President." Ron politely stretched out his hand and shook hands with Donald. Donald Bryce, Frank's vice president, in Frank's words, is the hypocritical man who comes to the office every morning to see if he has a chance to take the position. He is the person with the most embarrassing position in the entire White House, no one else. Unlike other presidential countries, the Vice President of the United States does not have any real power. He is only qualified to temporarily replace the poor spare tire who dies in office. So far in the history of the United States, there have been a total of 48 vice presidents, but only 8 have successfully sat on the presidential throne that symbolizes supreme power for various reasons. Perhaps this Donald also knew that he was not very popular. After a few simple greetings, he found a random reason to leave and left time for Ron and Frank. "Well done, Ron. I thought you would be a little unfamiliar with fishing, an old man's trick, but I didn't expect you to be good at it. Look, how many fish you have caught. We will have a feast for dinner tonight." Frank patted Ron's arm in a friendly manner. Those who can become president are at least outstanding in terms of friendliness. "Maybe it's because I was lucky today." Ron looked at Frank's bucket. There were only 3 pitiful fish in it. The 2 people clearly used the same fishing rod and the same bait, and they were not even too far away from each other. The reason for this difference? If Frank didn't specially arrange someone to lift a fish underwater and hang it on his fishing rod, then there is only one reason, that is, Frank can't calm down. Ron simply hung the fishing rod on the rack. "I guess you specially called me from Los Angeles. It must not be as simple as just accompanying you to fish, right? Haha, You found it? Frank continued to fish, a gleam in his eyes, but it was immediately covered up. What do you think of defense contractors? Defense contractors? You mean those mercenaries? Frank nodded. I have a general opinion of them, or rather I hate them. Ron thought for a moment and said seriously, although they have good combat effectiveness, and they don't need to be compensated after death, let alone counted in the casualties of the U.S. military. Such military reports will look much better in the media. However, their military discipline is too lax, and there are endless negative news about sexual assault, torture of prisoners, and massacre of civilians. They have caused more trouble in recent years than the U.S. military in the past 10 years combined. I think the same as you. What do you think of my cancellation of all private contracting contracts? Frank continued to ask. Not long ago, Blackwater's mercenaries had the biggest scandal in history on the battlefield in the Middle East, which was reported by media from all over the world, and aroused various anti-war organizations to denounce it. In order to calm the incident, Frank directly announced the cancellation of the cooperation agreement with all mercenary companies. This question is a bit beyond the scope. Although Ron has his own opinion on this issue, he will not show it. I think you should discuss this issue with the Secretary of State or the generals in the Pentagon. I am just a small agent who can only do some tax collection work. Several major military contractors in the United States, such as Blackwater, Salient, etc., each have strong capital and military bosses behind them. Ron does not want to get involved in this muddy water. This is a large interest group, and it is directly linked to the military. There are even shadows of those major arms companies. Ron is not stupid enough to cause trouble for them. It is enough to bully financiers or technology company bosses at ordinary times. What a joke to go against arms companies. They really have missiles in their hands. You are still as cautious as ever. Now that I have done this, I will not regret it. If I don't do this, it will be difficult for me to maintain my current approval rating. I don't want to lose in the re-election campaign. Frank was as confident as ever. I came to you to talk about another thing. Are you interested in a new job? What new job? Tell me about it. How about the director of the Secret Service? Frank looked at Ron with a stern look. The United States Secret Service is a law enforcement agency of the United States federal government, affiliated with the United States Department of Homeland Security. The main responsibility of the agency is to prevent and investigate the counterfeiting of U.S. dollars and bonds, but the more important responsibility is to protect the personal safety of the president, vice president and the elected and their families. In other words, it is a bodyguard agency that also performs investigation work. Therefore, in this position, the president can directly appoint the person he trusts most without listening to anyone's opinions. Before March 1, 2003, the Secret Service was affiliated with the United States Treasury Department, so there were still a large number of former Treasury Department personnel inside. It was not too outrageous for Ron to jump from the IRS to the Secret Service. However, joining the Secret Service at this time was not a good choice. Ron frowned and looked at the Secret Service agent who was on guard in the distance. Why not choose Mike? Mike is doing a good job now. I heard that he has never made any mistakes in his personal bodyguard job for so many years. I think no one will have any objection to him being the head of the Secret Service with his ability. Frank stared at the back. Of course I know Mike is doing a good job, but in my heart, you are the first choice for this job. I trust you more. And the strength you have. If you can set up a security company on your own, I will definitely sign a contract with you as soon as possible. Ron was shocked. Frank's words had two meanings. The first one was naturally to hope that Ron would be the head of the Secret Service. After all, Ron's strength was obvious to all, and with his group of powerful subordinates, they were enough to protect anyone's safety. The second one was a hint. Mercenaries were such useful temporary workers that no smart president would really want to give up. What Frank wanted to do was not to completely drive away the mercenaries, but to replace the mercenaries who signed contracts with the U.S. military with his own people. It sounds like I should be the white glove he has chosen. This is an opportunity, but it also contains huge risks. If it were someone else, they might agree to it immediately. After all, war is the most profitable business in the world. In this regard, the profit of drugs is far less than that. Which mercenary company signed a contract with the Pentagon that did not start with tens of billions or hundreds of billions of US dollars? This is a fortune that many people cannot earn in several lifetimes, but Ron is an exception. Are you kidding? Being a bodyguard for others is not as comfortable as being a local tycoon in Los Angeles. Not only is there no one to supervise him, but he can take a vacation whenever he wants. What's more, even if you earn a lot, you have to be alive to spend it. Ron doesn't want to go to war with the behemoth of the military-industrial complex. At least not now. Ron shook his head and rejected this very tempting proposal. Forget it, you should find someone else. You know my personality. I am more suitable for sabotage, not for protecting others. The most effective way I can protect you is to not let you ride in an open-top car. Mr. President, I think you can talk to Mike, okay? Frank nodded regretfully. There are too few fish here. I plan to try my luck in the lake. I want to call Mike. Do you want to come with me? I won't go. I wish you have fun. Ron shook his head. Next, it should be a conversation between Frank and Mike. Frank just asked politely, and he didn't need to participate. Command, the central and inner areas are safe. Area A14 is safe. The outside is safe. Everything is normal. Several helicopters flew over Ron's head and conducted reconnaissance nearby. These are the forces of the Secret Service. As long as he nodded just now, these will be under his command, but Ron did not regret it. However, what no one knew was that just when President Frank was worried about his position as the director of the Secret Service, two nanny cars with obvious signs of modification drove into the dense forest by the lake. Two men wrapped in dust-proof suits got out of the car. They opened the back door of one of the nanny cars, and a strange transmitter made of multiple tubes stretched out from the back door of the car. At this time, neither Ron, who was sitting by the lake fishing, nor the Secret Service agents who were chatting and laughing as usual, realized that danger was about to come. Action begins. The man in the dust-proof suit patted his companion and pressed the remote control in his hand. What is that? Is it a bat? An agent pointed at the dense black spots flying in the sky in confusion. Chapter 481 President Assassinated. It's a drone. What are you still looking at? Shoot them. Shoot them down. Ron's eyes were bloodshot and he grabbed the pistol of the agent next to him and fired at the sky. His pistol had been searched before he met Frank. Although he had a lot of weapons in his system space, there were many people here and he didn't want to be caught and sliced for research. The agents finally reacted to Ron's shouting and raised their weapons to start firing at the drones in the sky, but it didn't have much effect. Including the one Ron shot down, there were only 3 drones shot down. At this time, the limitations of the Secret Service's equipment were reflected. Their weapons were all aimed at people or vehicles such as aircraft, but facing this drone that was not much bigger than a cannonball and moved very quickly, they all became decorations. On the lake, Mike, who was favored by Ron, had already started to drive back with President Frank. At this time, the drone had flown over the shore defense position where Ron and his team were. Ron looked up. This was a high-speed drone with rear propellers. It was streamlined overall. Ron did not find any weapons mounted on the drone, which meant everyone be careful. This is a self-destruct model. Get out of the way. Don't let it lock on you. Ron had just finished shouting when the drone that was already hovering above their heads immediately sent out a 3-machine squadron to dive down, targeting exactly where Ron and his team were. Ron hurriedly looked around. This was an open area. Except for a few cars, there was nothing to block the view. Ron did not think that those cars could block the high explosives in the drone. The situation was urgent. He could already faintly hear the whistling sound of the drone when it dived. At this moment, Ron saw the calm lake next to him and suddenly had an idea. Jump into the lake. The drone can't go underwater, Ron yelled, and he jumped in first, regardless of whether anyone followed him. Just as he had half of his body in the water, the drone had already rushed to the position where he had just stood. It did not touch anyone, so the drone plunged directly to the ground. Boom! A small hole was blown out on the ground. Fortunately, Ron had jumped into the water. Otherwise, he would have been blown into a pile of bloody parts scattered everywhere. Because the other agents who were attacked just now were in the same situation. After the suicide attack just now, the lakeshore was already full of corpses, and the drones were still searching for targets like crows around the god of death, then diving and exploding. In just a few minutes, Ron's shore defense position was completely destroyed. FXXK, Ron just emerged from the water, and was immediately locked by a drone in the sky, diving and attacking, so scared that he had to dive into the water again. Boom! The drone exploded on the water surface, and the water flow pushed him down again. He held his breath, but fortunately he was not scratched by the fragments of the drone. In the sky, The drone group crossed the lake rock position and came to the lake surface, using suicide attacks to kill the president's escort boats one by one, and was about to catch up with the boat that Frank was on. Mr. President, be careful. Mike, the current personal bodyguard of the president, suddenly had an idea and followed Ron's example by jumping into the lake with Frank in his arms. Boom! Frank's boat was blown to pieces. However, this was not the end. The attacker's purpose was obviously to kill Frank. After locking Frank's position, the remaining drones in the air seemed to have received a signal at the same time and gathered here together. Mike saw that the situation was not good and pulled Frank, who was about to swim to the shore. They are still attacking, Mr. President, we must continue to dive. Dive deeper. Frank took a deep breath and Mike held him together and dived into the water. Not long after they left the water, the drones that had gathered here rushed to the place where they had just disappeared one after another, and the impact caused by the explosion pushed them deeper into the bottom of the lake. In the distant forest, the two men who had used up all their drones punctured the tire of one of the cars, then got into another nanny car and left the forest, leaving only the deliberately abandoned car parked there. Ron, who was underwater with a leather tube in his mouth and pulled to the surface of the water with a bottle at the other end to breathe, waited until the explosion finally stopped, and waited for another 5 minutes before carefully emerging from the water. Are there any living people? Ron put the tube back into the system space and shouted tentatively. But no one responded, except for himself. There was only a slight cry for help from the lake in the distance. It was Mike dragging Frank to the shore. What happened to him? Ron frowned as he looked at Frank, who was bleeding and unconscious. He was hit by the water flow of the explosion and hit the rocks at the bottom of the lake. The water over there is too shallow. Mike pressed hard on Frank's wound, but the wound still bled. It's useless. We need an ambulance. Ron took over Mike's position. You go and contact support. Where are your Secret Service people? What are they doing? Mike just said one word, and the rest of his words were drowned out by the roar of the helicopter. 2 helicopters quickly came and landed beside them, took them on the plane, and quickly transferred them to the nearest hospital. At the same time, this incident quickly fermented around the world, and the whole world was stunned by this news. In the hospital, Frank and Mike were placed in the intensive care unit, and Ron, because he didn't seem to be injured, was only questioned by a beautiful female nurse. Sir, do you feel any discomfort? No. Ron lowered his head and looked at the big meat buns of the nurse. I just feel a little hungry. It would be nice to have some buns to eat. It would be even better if I could have some milk. Buns are a common delicacy in Chinatown. The nurse looked at Ron's handsome face and smiled. After I confirm that you are okay, you can eat whatever you want. Stretch out your hand and move it to see if there is any obstruction. Ron put his hand on the nurse's hand and moved it for a while. When he was done, there was a business card in his hand. The nurse winked at him seductively. Don't forget to call me on the other side. Outside the president's ward, the vice president who left early had hurried over. How is the president? He was unconscious when he boarded the helicopter and has not woken up until now. The good news is that we did not find any blood clots or swelling in his brain, so we just need to wait for him to wake up. The attending doctor answered immediately. What about the security team? Only one person survived. The subordinate behind him replied, and one of the president's guests, Ron Lee Cooper. The others are all dead. Then take them all under control first. Chapter 482 Assassination. Ahem. Mr. Cooper, just as Ron was about to use his hands to measure the size of the cute little nurse's meat bun, a group of uninvited guests broke in. The little nurse exclaimed and quickly took Ron's hand away. I am an FBI agent, Helen Thompson. The leading female agent showed her ID. If it's convenient for you, I would like to ask you a few questions, but I'm not convenient now. Ron glared at the female agent who ruined his good deeds. But the other party seemed to have not heard the rejection in Ron's tone, and sat down directly opposite him. Can you tell me what happened at the time? Why are you and Mike banning the only 2 people who survived the scene except Mr. President Frank? Ron's heart trembled. This way of asking questions clearly showed that the other party was not friendly. So what you mean is that I should die with those Secret Service members who died? Anyway, I am just a group of soldiers like the men standing behind you. Right, that's not what I meant, Ron said, making Helen a little flustered. It's just that as the only 2 survivors of the attack, we just found a deposit of $10 million in Mike's offshore account, and your company has been holding multiple drone patents. We suspect that you may be related to this case, so you suspect me. Ron was so angry that he laughed. Sometimes, I even doubt whether you FBI guys have brains. When you were checking the patents I hold, didn't you see that the drone patents I hold are quadcopters and jet drones, and the one that attacked was a rear-mounted single-rotor drone? Is that so? Helen asked the assistant behind her for help. Her expression became complicated after the assistant answered. Haha, has the FBI's standard fallen to this point now? Ron asked with a sneer. You come here to question me without even knowing the model of the drone? Helen opened her mouth to say something, and suddenly a panicked FBI rushed in from outside the ward and whispered a few words to Helen, and Helen's face immediately changed. Sorry to bother you, Mr. Cooper, we did make a mistake. All of this should be done by Benning. Helen smiled apologetically and was about to get up and leave, but Ron hurriedly called her. Wait, you come here without any evidence to ask a bunch of random questions, and then just leave like that? Is this the etiquette of your FBI? If so, then I think I should go to your FBI more often, check taxes or something. What do you think, Agent Helen? I've already apologized to you, Mr. Cooper. What else do you want? Helen turned around and asked helplessly. On the way here, she had read Ron's information and knew that he was always a very difficult character, and she couldn't take Ron's threat seriously. I want to know what happened and why you have withdrawn your suspicion of me. Just now my men found the car that launched the drone near the place where you were attacked. After identification, Mr. Banning's DNA sample was found in the car. In addition, in the warehouse of Banning's house, the same explosives used in the drone were found. We have reason to suspect. Oh my God, are all you FBI people mentally retarded? Ron couldn't help but sighed. The FBI in the ward glared at him, but Ron didn't care. Everyone knows that Mike was on the same ship with the president. The command records sent back from the scene can also prove this. How did he get away from the scene and drive the car with the drone to the nearby area to attack? Did he use the clone technique? Do you think this is a ninja movie? But, enough. Helen wanted to explain something, but was interrupted by a rude drawer outside the door. The door of the ward opened and a figure that Ron was very familiar with walked in. Hobbs, what are you doing here? Ron rolled his eyes. You go out first, leave this to me. Hobbs first sent his men out with a serious face, and after his men left, he immediately changed to a smiling face. For such a big case, who else in the entire FBI can handle it except me? How is it? How does it feel to be treated as a terrorist? Not very good. If your men were not so useless, you would not suspect me at all, Luo said unhappily. Even if it was really me, you don't think you can catch me with those useless people just now? Believe it or not, as long as I want to run, I can kill them and slip away in minutes. I believe it. That's why I stayed outside all the time. Fortunately, it wasn't you. Hobbs came to Ron, put his hands on his shoulders, stared at Ron with deep eyes, until his scalp was numb, and then he said in a deep voice, Ron, I need your help. For a moment, the air in the ward suddenly became ambiguous. Get lost. You damned glass. Ron slapped Hobbs's hand away, took a big step back, and patted his shoulder in disgust. I can't have this dress anymore. Hobbs looked hurt. I'm serious. I really need your help. The FBI in Washington are so crappy, and the Secret Service is the same. Can you believe it? The drone that attacked the president was launched from a dense forest less than 3 kilometers away. Even if my grandmother was the director of the Secret Service, she wouldn't shorten the cordon so much. Then have you ever thought of another possibility, that they were deliberately let in? Hobbs' eyes flashed when he heard this. You mean, you also think Mike Banning is the planner? I didn't say that. Everything is possible before the final result comes out, Ron quickly denied. In addition to the Secret Service, there should be many people who know the president's itinerary. I think these people can be your suspects. Among them, especially pay attention to those who are close to defense contractors. Why? Because President Frank's most recent decree is to cut off their financial resources. As the saying goes, cutting off someone's financial resources is like killing their parents. They are the most likely suspects. They can bribe anyone around the president to get information about the president's schedule, and even give orders to the president's protection plan. From this point of view, it is possible that Mike Banning was bribed. Hobbs quickly took out a small notebook and wrote it down. For example, the $10 million in his bank account. Yes, although the possibility of deliberate frame-up cannot be ruled out, Ron nodded, but we will see tonight whether he is clean or not. Why do you say that? Hobbs asked curiously. Ron smiled mysteriously. Because. Chapter 483, Angel Falls. Because from the inexplicable extra $10 million in his account, whether Banning is innocent or not, They will definitely take the next step. We just need to wait, but before that, let me do something very meaningful, Hobbs asked in confusion. Something very meaningful, Mr. Banning's account has an inexplicable extra $10 million US, Hobbs, Ron emphasized. Whether he was bribed or someone else transferred the money to him to frame him, it is all unexpected income. According to US law, it must be taxed, and I can't wait. You are worthy of it. Hobbs shook his head helplessly. Hobbs, hurry up, follow me, don't let my colleagues in Washington react first, Ron urged as he walked to the door. If the $10 million US were all taxed as unexpected income, it would be almost $4 million in the account. If 30% of the flow was intercepted, it would be more than $1.2 million. All of a sudden, not only the maintenance cost of the yacht would be paid, but also a luxury car could be purchased. Late at night, the FBI Washington branch finally ended the preliminary interrogation of Mike Banning, and the conclusion was still that he was a major suspect, and decided to transfer him from the hospital for further interrogation. Ron and Hobbs had already ambushed the road that the transfer convoy had to pass based on Hobbs' insider intelligence. President Frank's number one guardian angel fell tonight, and Secret Service agent Mike Banning was arrested. The situation that has been revealed is shocking. President Frank was betrayed by his own team. It is rumored that Banning was originally expected to take over the position of director of the Secret Service. What a poor guy, you know? Hobbs, he has a 3-year-old daughter. Ron turned off the radio and said in a sympathetic tone. For those of us in this business, this kind of thing is no stranger, so I told Heidi a long time ago that if I have any accidents, let her take the children back to Samoa. There is no other disadvantage there except that it is poor. By the way, did I tell you that Heidi and I plan to have a child in the future? When Hobbs talked about this, his face was full of sweetness. Oh? You are still together with Heidi? Congratulations, and I hope your second baby is a daughter. Why? Are boys bad, Hobbs? Boys usually look a lot like their uncles. Do you want a son who looks like Deckard Shaw? After Ron finished speaking, Hobbs's expression suddenly looked as uncomfortable as if he had eaten 100 flies. If that's the case, I'm afraid I won't be able to help but drown him in the toilet. Girls are better. I've decided that we should have a girl. Wait, what's going on? In the distance on the road, the lights of 2 cars could be seen slowly approaching. Just when they were about to pass by Ron and his hiding place, they suddenly turned and drove into the woods in the opposite direction of Ron and his friends. I guess that must not be your FBI escort vehicle. It seems that we are not the only two who received the news that Mr. Banning was transferred. It's interesting. Your FBI is really infiltrated by someone. Hobbs's face turned very ugly. You are right. They should be Banning's gang. Should we kill them first? Don't worry, see what they want to do. Before all the truth comes out, it's too early to draw conclusions now. Ron shook his head. Maybe they are the ones who framed Banning. Then why save him? To make him more convicted? To hide the identity of the real planner? All possible. No matter what the reason is, we will know it soon, right? Another convoy drove over in the distance. As expected, it should be the FBI convoy that escorted Banning. Ron's eyes began to become sharp. The real owner finally appeared. Including Ron and his friends, they are now in the same group. They appeared on this inconspicuous road at the same time around the assassination of the president. Ron's side did not move, but when the escort convoy drove to the side of another mysterious convoy, the lights suddenly went out and the entire convoy stopped. What's going on? Why are they stopping here? Have even the people in the escort convoy been bribed? Hobbs said unhappily. I don't think so. It looks like 3 cars broke down at the same time. Ron used night vision goggles to observe people getting out of the car and walking around the car, and guessed. 3 cars broke down at the same time? Are you kidding me? Under normal circumstances, it's impossible, but what if someone has done something in advance? Ron saw another convoy start to move, and quickly patted Hobbs. They moved. Bang! The 2 cars in front and behind the escort convoy were knocked over from the side by a car that suddenly jumped out from the roadside. The armed personnel who got off the car quickly killed the FBI in the knocked-over car, and then surrounded the escort car in the middle. They quickly shot and killed the FBI guarding Banning, hijacked Banning to their own car and drove away. The whole operation was as smooth as flowing water. Except for the violent resistance of Banning when he was forced to his car, there were no obstacles. Ron, why don't you let me out? Are you just going to watch them die? Hobbs yelled at Ron. When the mysterious convoy took action just now, He immediately wanted to start the car to support, but he was stopped by Ron as soon as he moved, and asked him to wait and see. Those bastards are dead, and they didn't kill anyone from beginning to end. It's a waste of air to live. You and I are both veterans. You should understand that you can never rely on the mercy of others to survive on the battlefield, Ron said nonchalantly, but they didn't die in vain. At least they proved me something very important. Important thing? What is that? Hobbs asked curiously. Banning is not in the same group with him. He just showed obvious resistance, and those who hijacked him showed no respect to him. Now, at least we know who we should help, right? Ron put on a bloodthirsty smile on his face. Hobbs, do you want to do some exercise? I'd love to. Hobbs gave him a creepy smile and started the car. If a child saw this face at night, he would be scared to tears. Number one, there's a strange car behind us. Should we kill it? The rear car of the convoy observed their car in the rearview mirror and asked the front car cautiously. Slow down and let it pass first. If there's nothing wrong, don't worry about it and don't make trouble. The rear car understands, the commander of the rear car just replied when something strange happened. Chapter 484, FBI Trash. The car behind the convoy had just slowed down, and the car behind them that was following them normally suddenly slowed down as well. A man leaned out of the car window, grinning and aiming a rocket launcher at them. The commander was immediately scared and quickly stretched out his gun to prepare for a counterattack, but he was still a step too slow. Ron had already pulled the trigger. Swoosh! A Stinger missile shot towards the car in front with a long tail flame. Even though the driver changed direction immediately with his rich experience, he was still hit by the Stinger missile because of the limited maneuvering distance. Boom! The car was blown up into the sky. Ron threw away the empty tube and patted the roof of the car. We've got one. Speed up. Speed up. There's another one in front. The car accelerated and quickly passed by the car that had just been blown up. Ron was afraid that the people inside were not dead yet, so he didn't forget to throw a grenade through the car window. Just after doing all this, 3 people in the car in front who had already reacted leaned out from the left and right windows and the roof to shoot at them. Ron quickly pulled back. The bullets hit the car, but they made only a clanging sound. There was no other effect. The bulletproof car is good. Where did you buy it? I got it from the army. It can withstand all rifle and machine gun bullets below 7.62 caliber, Hobbs said as he stepped on the accelerator to the bottom. The car rushed forward like an arrow shot from a bow, and hit the rear of the car in front hard. The huge inertia caused the car in front to fall heavily, almost throwing the person leaning out of the window. The person almost fell out of the car, let alone aiming. Ron took this opportunity to lean out again. This time he held his most handy revolver in his hand. While leaning out, he instantly locked the heads of the 3 people who were exposed. Time seemed to stand still for a moment for Ron. Ron aimed the muzzle of the gun at the target one by one, just like doing elementary school homework, and then switched to the next one. He repeated this 4 times. Bang! 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 3 people, each with a bloody hole in the middle of their foreheads, fell out of the car window, and 1 bullet directly hit the left rear tire of the car, blowing it up. The out-of-control car crashed directly into a tree on the side of the road and stopped. Ron and Hobbs got out of the car, holding the pistols in their hands and flanking from the left and right. There were 5 people in the car, and Ron had just killed 3 of them. Only the driver and Banning were left, who hit the air cushion and fainted. Ron shot the driver in the head again, then tapped Banning's head with the muzzle of the gun. You don't have to pretend anymore, Mr. Banning. By the way, if you plan to take the gun, I suggest you think it over carefully first. There are 2 people pointing guns at you now. If you think you can knock down 2 veterans in 1 second, you can try it. But I won't be responsible if our gun goes off accidentally. How did you know? Banning couldn't pretend anymore, so he simply stopped pretending. He looked up and immediately recognized Ron. You are the guest the president met before the accident. Yes, it was me. Are you here to arrest me? Banning's face was full of grief and indignation. Do you also think I planned the action? No, on the contrary. We believe you. Ron turned the pistol on his finger, put it back into the holster, and casually took out the driver's pistol and handed it to him. We believe you are wronged, but you have to find the evidence yourself. Good luck. You are willing to believe me, Banning said in disbelief. Of course, but due to my position, I can't help you now. In addition, if you don't run quickly, the FBI scum will catch up soon. They should have called for support, Banning took the gun and looked at Ron and Hobbs deeply. After a long time, he took the gun and turned to leave. Thank you. The FBI Washington Command Center was holding an emergency meeting at this time. Helen rushed into the conference room. The large screen in the conference room was playing the scene of the on-site investigation. As soon as she came in, she asked, "What happened?" Banning ran away. A subordinate pointed at the screen and analyzed. "I think this must be an organized action. He was picked up by his accomplices." Before the subordinate finished speaking, the door of the conference room was opened again. His speech was interrupted by a round of applause. Just as he was about to explode, he found that one of the two people who came in was Hobbs, a legendary FBI agent, who was higher in rank than everyone present. "Hello, sir," one of the subordinates stood at attention, but Hobbs didn't buy it. "Ron is right, you are really a bunch of losers." "You?" "Yes, you." Hobbs pointed at the person who had just been interrupted by him. "Why do you think Banning was rescued by someone?" Ron was slurping milk tea with a straw behind Hobbs, as if he was an outsider. "Because all our people at the scene are dead, and Banning is missing." "So, bullshit." Hobbs interrupted him again before he could finish. "We sent out 3 vehicles for escort, but there were 5 vehicles destroyed at the scene, and the armed men in the other 2 vehicles were not our people." "How do you explain that?" The men stammered and explained, "That's because the people who came to rescue Banning died in a gunfight with our people, and their companions didn't have time to take their bodies away." Tisk tisk, Banning's accomplices. Ron shook his head. "Hobbs, I don't think you need to talk to these idiots. They're already hopeless. What gives you the right to say that about my men, and you, Agent Hobbs? Although you are higher in rank than the rest of us, I am now fully responsible for this case. Now, please give me an explanation, otherwise, I will have someone ask you to leave." Being provoked by Hobbs and Ron one after another, Helen finally couldn't bear it anymore and fought back unwillingly. "Explanation? Do I need to explain?" "Haha." Ron smiled and pointed at his subordinate who had just been scolded. "Let me ask you, what is the caliber of the gunshot wounds on your FBI agents? What is the caliber of the gunshot wounds on Banning's accomplices?" "The wounds on our people were all caused by 5.56 rifle bullets. Except for the carload of people killed by rockets, the gunshots on Banning's accomplices were all caused by .45 pistol bullets." "That's right. When did your FBI agent start to be equipped with .45 caliber pistols? Haven't you always been using 9mm Glock 17? You can't even find such obvious clues. What the hell are you doing?" Ron turned his head and looked outside the door. "Mr. Congressman, I strongly suggest that this case be handed over to Hobbs and me for joint investigation." Everyone followed Ron's gaze and looked outside the door. Chapter 485 The Power of Capital. Congressman Alan Trimble was Ron's foreign aide. Alan walked into the meeting room and glanced at everyone. "On behalf of the Parliament, I authorize Hobbs and Ron to investigate this case. Who objects?" There was silence all around. Helen moved her lips but said nothing. It was a very unwise move to go against the decision of the Parliament at this time. "Okay, thank you, Mr. Congressman. Since no one has any objections, we will take over here." Ron sent the congressman away and sat in the main seat of the meeting room. Hobbs rolled his eyes but said nothing. "Now tell me, how is the progress of your investigation?" You tell me." Ron pointed to the FBI agent who had just been scolded by him. Let me see. We just found out that the money in Banning's overseas account was transferred from the Moscow State Bank. So, we are preparing to issue a notice saying that he is collaborating with the enemy." "Collaborating with the enemy? How did you come to this conclusion?" Ron slammed the table. This man was hopelessly stupid. "If I transfer 10 million to you from the Moscow State Bank now, can it also prove that you are collaborating with the enemy?" "Gentlemen, don't bring your political stance into the case. So what you mean is that Banning is wronged?" Helen thought thoughtfully. "In that case, should we withdraw the people who are tracking Banning?" "Why should we withdraw?" Ron asked back. "Not only can we not withdraw, but we must also intensify the tracking of Banning. In addition, the accusation of collaborating with the enemy that you just mentioned should also be spread out." "Why?" Ron smiled wickedly. "If my judgment is correct, then someone will be more anxious to find Banning and find a way to make him disappear, thereby confirming these charges. Of course, you can't sit idle. Where was the drone that attacked the president produced? Why could the attacking car get so close to the president without anyone noticing? Who is in charge of that area? Who else in the Secret Service knows the president's itinerary? What were the identities of the people in the other 2 cars on the night Banning escaped? Check them all, Ron gave an order, and the entire FBI began to get busy again. A day later, there was new progress. We have found out who died that night. They were Salient mercenaries. Hobbs came to Ron's temporary office excitedly with the information. Although their DNA information has been erased and cannot be found in the federal database, the camera has captured them entering and leaving Salient Global. Well done. Although this news came a little late, Ron threw a photo on the table. The photo was taken in a cabin in the woods. A row of corpses were placed on the wall of the cabin, and there was a line of words on the wall. We are Salient mercenaries. Hobbs was shocked. Where's this place? A dense forest in Pennsylvania. Our people tracked Banning into the dense forest and disappeared. According to my order, they did not take any action, but just watched from a distance. As a result, these guys followed Banning into the dense forest that night, and then our people saw a big fire. Ron showed a playful smile. The next morning, when our people went in, they found these unlucky guys who were killed by landmines, and the words on the wall. I guess he didn't know that the person in charge of the case had been replaced. That should be the message he left for that idiot. Helen, who was working next to him, pressed the pen in her hand on the paper hard, and directly scratched the notebook. Landmine. Hobbs was a little surprised. Yes, that's right, it's a landmine, and it's a very old model. Ron nodded. But how did he arrange the mines in such a short time? I think I can answer this question for you. Helen stood up and handed Hobbs a document. I just found out that Banning's father is a veteran of the Vietnam War. After the war, he left the country due to traumatic stress and was afraid of hurting his family, so he took the initiative to live in the forest. That wooden house is his house. Helen stood up. I want to prove that I'm not a fool. I apply to join the subsequent investigation, so what do you think we should do now? Ron looked up at Helen. I think Helen just opened her mouth, and an urgent news interruption came on TV. At present, the interim president has launched a diplomatic inquiry to Russia regarding the assassination of President Frank, calling on Russia to hand over the murderer. To achieve this goal, the use of war and other means is not ruled out. Helen suddenly had an idea. I think we should protect the president. Vice President Bryce is also in the same group with them. The evidence has not yet been able to fully prove the crime of Banning's collusion with the enemy, but he is so eager to provoke Russia. Even a fool can see that Vice President Bryce has a problem. The simplest answer is that he has been involved with those mercenaries. President Frank's policy canceled all military contracting contracts. Therefore, if he wants to use these mercenaries again, there is only one possibility. That is, the U.S. military suffered a large number of casualties on the battlefield, so that the people actively called for the use of mercenaries. It must be said that they have made a good calculation. Maybe, in addition to the mercenaries, the arms companies may not be uninvolved in this matter. Therefore, in order to achieve this goal, they must make Frank a dead man. I take back my previous evaluation of you as an idiot. Ron nodded in appreciation. Now, arrange personnel immediately, and must arrive at the hospital before those mercenaries who don't care about their lives. In addition, notify our people that if anyone sees Banning, just let him join us. Yes, sir, everyone answered together. After the FBI left, Ron stood up and stretched. This matter is finally over. Do you think they'll really have the courage to send mercenaries to assassinate the president? This is already tantamount to rebellion. Hobbs still maintained an unbelievable expression. Nothing is impossible, Hobbs. When capital comes to the world, every pore is dripping with dirty blood. Ron shrugged, looking accustomed to it. Once there is a proper profit, capital becomes bold. If there is a 10% profit, it is guaranteed to be used everywhere. With a 20% profit, it becomes active. With a 50% profit, it takes risks. With a 100% profit, it dares to trample on all human laws. With a 300% profit, they are even willing to sell the rope that hangs themselves, and the war profit is at least 1000%, which is enough for them to do anything that looks crazy, which of course includes getting rid of a president who is in the way. Hobbs opened his mouth in surprise, and Ron helped to lift his chin. And we happen to be a country dominated by capital, aren't we? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 486 Hospital Attack and Defense. Helen Tomplin is the only female senior official in the FBI Washington, D.C. Although others say that she has gained gender benefits in this era of feminism, she does not agree with this statement. In Helen's view, all this is the result of her own efforts. Although her shooting skills are mediocre among many colleagues, belonging to the lower average, and her case analysis ability is also backward, she is unwilling to admit that she has a relationship with her skin color and gender. By the way, I forgot to mention that Helen is also black. In the context of political correctness, she is born with 2 layers of buff. Team A, guard the hospital gate. Team C is responsible for the back door and stairs. Team D is responsible for the elevator, and 1 person is left to watch the elevator entrance downstairs, but there must be 2 people guarding the elevator entrance on each floor, so that if someone plans to come in from the elevator, they will be careless and fall into our trap. Report to the commander. We just found Mr. Banning in the underground garage. I brought him up, Banning said after his subordinate stepped aside. Thank you for trusting me. How is the president now? He hasn't woken up yet, but I believe that when he wakes up, he will believe in you like me. Helen skillfully took the credit for trusting you. Now I need your strength. You can lead Team C. Wait, what's that sound? Helen looked at the ward in confusion. For some reason, the oxygen ports on the walls of each ward were opened at the same time, constantly releasing unknown gases. That's the gas leaking. That's our oxygen pipeline, the nurse next to her interrupted. Hurry up and call and ask what's going on. Have someone turn it off. Helen yelled at the nurse to call quickly, but the conclusion drawn from the control room surprised her. Someone has controlled our gas system, but it's not our people. Banning's heart trembled. He's going to blow up this building. People can't live without oxygen, but too much oxygen is not a good thing. When there is too much oxygen in the air, just a little spark can ignite the entire hospital. Coupled with the various gases stored in the hospital, it will immediately turn into a big explosion. Come on, take the president to the top floor for transfer. No, we can't wait for the helicopter. We have to go from the ground and use emergency vehicles. Now we will conduct a full evacuation and notify the hospital guards. Banning obviously understands the working method of the Secret Service better than the new temporary worker. Under the arrangement of the Secret Service, the hospital began to evacuate quickly, and the president was also carried on a stretcher to a special transfer vehicle. But just as the car drove out of the ward building and arrived near the gate, Banning suddenly stopped the car. Stop. Stop the car. They are not our people at all. It turned out that the people guarding the gate had already changed their clothes, and the guards originally arranged by the Secret Service had fallen to the ground, and their lives were unknown. After discovering the team escorting the president, the group of mercenaries blocking the door immediately excitedly fired at them. Bullets were fired from several directions. The car was sandwiched between the ward building, the outpatient building and the gate. There was no way out for a while. Banning could only order the Secret Service to rely on the car and hold on for the time being. Too arrogant. It's really too arrogant. This group of lawless mercenaries dared to launch an attack on the president in the Capitol. Is there anything they dare not do? On the roof of the outpatient building opposite the ward building, Hobbs looked at the battle scene downstairs and shouted angrily. Ron's attitude towards this was very indifferent. I told you a long time ago that if the money is enough, even if God himself comes down, he will be beaten by them. How about it? Ron, can we take action now? If we don't take action now, they will definitely succeed, Hobbs asked anxiously. The situation below is quite unfavorable to Banning and his team. The mercenaries suppress their firepower in 2 teams in different directions, and the other 2 3-person teams quickly insert them from the left and right to the back of their vehicle. This tactic is very effective in the current situation where the number of people is bullying the number of people and the firepower is absolutely superior. Although Banning's team resists tenaciously, it is only a matter of time before they fail. Indeed, the 2 firing points on the left and right sides of the door are too disadvantageous for Banning and his men. Let's get rid of these 2 firing points first. Ron used the rangefinder to aim at the firing points at the door, filled in the distance in the table on the notebook, and after a simple calculation, quickly came up with the data, then turned around and began to adjust the deep mortar. Next to him, Hobbs was repeating the same thing. If there were people who were very familiar with the U.S. military equipment here, they would definitely recognize at a glance that they were operating the M120 120mm mortars currently in service with the U.S. military. Under their operation, the 2 mortars were pointed at 2 different firing points at the door of the hospital. Adjustment completed, ready to fire, Hobbs held the mortar shell at the muzzle and shouted loudly, Fire. Following Ron's order, the two men let go at the same time. Bang! The huge explosion shook the entire ground violently, and the two shells flew out of the barrel under the impetus of the gunpowder gas, drawing a beautiful parabola in the air and accurately landing on the mercenaries' firing point. Boom! The mercenaries behind the firepower bunker were immediately blown away by the airflow of the exploding shells, and their bodies were torn into pieces in the air and flew everywhere. Of course, Banning would not miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Now, Banning's Secret Service team suddenly stood up, and 9 people with 9 rifles quickly fired at the interspersed mercenary team, knocking down 3 mercenaries in an instant. The situation suddenly reversed, and the Secret Service suppressed the mercenaries, but Banning was not overwhelmed by the victory. After suppressing the interspersed mercenaries in the flower bed bunker, 2 Secret Service agents were immediately arranged to lift the president's stretcher and rush to where Ron and the others were. He and others continued to use firepower to cover the president, and then they covered in echelons, and retreated to the outpatient building little by little. In this building, they still have some Secret Service agents who can serve as support, and there is no storage of dangerous gases in this building. So there is no risk of explosion. As long as they stay here until the support arrives, they can be saved. How was it? Was it enjoyable? Hobbs smiled sheepishly. I apologize for what I said just now, Ron. These things were not brought in vain. They are really useful. I have said it before, our enemies this time are mercenaries. To deal with them, we must not stay in the mindset of dealing with terrorists in the past. We must treat this as a real war. Do you understand war? Ron looked at the corpse at the door with a fanatical look in his eyes. Now adjust the target to the main entrance of the hospital. We need to use 2 mortars and 10 shells to seal the gate. Chapter 487 Taxation and Changes. It's a 120 mm mortar. Damn, when did the Secret Service have this thing? Salient's boss, Banning's former comrade-in-arms, felt a pang of pain when he saw the mercenaries killed by the shells. These people are all his money-making machines. Where is the helicopter? Kill the mortar on the roof for me. The helicopter, which had been on standby in the sky, began to fly to the roof of the outpatient building according to the instructions, but just halfway through the flight, a rocket was fired from the roof and directly hit the propeller on the top of the helicopter. Boom! The helicopter fell to the ground with thick smoke. Since everyone knew that the opponent was a mercenary, how could Ron not be on guard against this? Great! Can I have the next one? Hobbs looked at Ron, who had just shot down the helicopter, and he felt envious energy. Of course, but I doubt if they have a second helicopter. After all, this is Washington, D.C. It's already the limit for some people to let them drive a helicopter in. Ron nodded indifferently. In fact, it was true. This behavior of the mercenaries is actually equivalent to rebellion. In any sovereign country, if this happens, they will be killed immediately. It is beyond Ron's expectation that this group of mercenaries can still jump around like this. Normally, if the US military is really at this level, it would have been taught a lesson many times. Therefore, there is only one reason for this situation, that is, there are military personnel involved in this operation against Frank. That's right, where are the military people? Hobbs also came to his senses at this time and found something wrong. Who cares? They will come sooner or later anyway. We just need to deal with these guys in front of us. With the support of Ron and Hobbs, the pressure on the Secret Service and Banning was greatly reduced, and they all evacuated to the outpatient building before the inpatient building was blown up. Boom! There was a loud noise in the inpatient building, and the whole building collapsed under the huge impact of the explosion, but no casualties were caused. The outpatient building here has become a natural fortress after the Secret Service moved in. Even though the mercenaries have the advantage in numbers, it is not easy to take down the outpatient building occupied by the Secret Service without heavy weapons. The mercenaries organized several attacks in succession, but they were all repelled by the Secret Service in the building. Except for the one shot of the mortar fired by Ron at the beginning, Hobbs was playing with it the rest of the time. Okay, everything is over, Hobbs, let's call it a day. Hobbs was having fun with the mortar, and Ron suddenly stood up, stretched his body, and walked towards the stairwell. When did it end? How come I didn't know? Hobbs was stunned. The fighting is still going on down there. The mercenaries have organized 3 attacks, but they haven't taken the outpatient building yet. The military's patience is almost exhausted. Military, why do you think the army hasn't come yet? Ron said indifferently. They are watching the fire from the other side of the river, waiting for this Game of Thrones to decide a winner, and then cheer for the winner. This is a very smart approach. Otherwise, do you think a group of mercenaries are capable of playing such a real-life gun battle game in the most core power zone of the United States? If that were the case, we might have started using Japan's era name and changed our name to Showa America. How is that possible? With those little dwarfs. Hobbs' face was full of contempt. Never underestimate the Orientals, Hobbs. Even the strongest UN forces lost to that insignificant rabbit in Korea. What's more, Japan's economy almost bought the entire United States. The rest is up to you. Hobbs was confused by Ron's sudden action. Wait, where are you going? Aren't you going to catch all those mercenaries with me? Walking to the door, Ron waved at Hobbs. Those are your business. Now, I should do my work, which belongs to the IRS. IRS work? What kind of IRS work can there be now? Hobbs muttered to himself. There really is IRS work. When Ron and Hobbs were playing with mortars on the roof, Finch had sent a recording file to Ron's mobile phone. This recording was the record of the call between the owner of Salient and Vice President Bryce. The content of the chat not only included how Salient leaked the president's whereabouts to Salient, but also the specific plan to assassinate the president. At the vice president's residence, Bryce had just come out of Parliament today. He immediately canceled all his schedules and returned home on the pretext of feeling unwell. He paced back and forth in the study room restlessly. Every time he walked around, his eyes would always stay on the phone on the table for a while. It was hard to tell whether the complex emotions in his eyes were more of fear or expectation. Mr. Donald Bryce, long time no see. Bryce had just sat down at the desk when a voice from outside the window suddenly startled him. Who is it? Wait, I think I've seen you before. Are you Frank's friend? Recognizing the man, Bryce pushed his glasses pretending to be calm. Did Frank ever teach you that climbing windows is something lowly people do? Forget it. For Frank's sake, please leave quickly, or I'll call for help. Haha, this Frank never really told me that, but he did tell me that betraying your own people is something only dead people do. What do you think? Ron sat down on the table in front of Bryce, tossing and catching his cell phone in his hand, looking at Bryce with a teasing look. Since Bryce took the throne of interim president, no one has ever dared to be so rude to him. But he didn't dare to say anything more, because he himself had a dirty trick to begin with, so he could only pretend to be calm, took off his glasses and wiped the lenses. I don't understand what you are saying, really? Or can you understand this? Ron took out his mobile phone and pressed the play button, and Bryce's own voice came out from the speaker. I told you a long time ago that President Frank is my good friend with the same political views. You actually want me to betray him? Impossible. Unless you pay me. I want 50 million, how about it? Does this recording sound familiar? Think about it, if this recording is released by the media, what effect will it cause? Not only will you get the nickname president with money, you will also face triple charges of leaking secrets, murder and treason, and you will spend the rest of your life in prison. What do you want? Bryce asked tremblingly. Don't be nervous, Mr. President. Relax. Ron pulled a chair over and sat opposite Bryce. I am a regular staff member of the finance department. I will not blackmail you like a gangster. I will never forgive evil, but I need to remind Mr. President that according to the laws of my family, even if you are the president, you have to pay taxes on unexpected income according to regulations. What do you think? Pay. I will pay. As long as you want money, everything is easy to talk about. Bryce breathed a sigh of relief. How much do you think you should pay? Of course, 50% of unexpected income, but because you didn't pay the tax immediately after receiving the money, I need to charge you a 30% late payment fee. Ron smiled wickedly and shook the phone in front of Bryce again. What do you think? Bryce was furious. 50% plus 30% is a total of 80%. So I sold the president, but in the end I still work for you? Even if it was a warlord who defrauded donations, at most he would take 70%. You are even more cruel than the warlord? But what can I do even if I am angry? Ron was a very good agent. He had heard the president say many times that sneak attacks had no chance of success. He didn't even dare to call the Secret Service agent who was protecting him at the door. Who knew if Ron would reveal his secret of betraying the president after calling him over? I'll pay. Bryce gritted his teeth. But you have to. What a wise choice. Ron smiled and patted Bryce's face. If you transfer the money faster, I can still catch the next flight back to Los Angeles. Because of your mess, I have missed the premiere of Star Wars. I must watch the movie before my bad friends spoil it for me. I don't want anyone to spoil it for me. If someone spoils it for me, I will definitely want to bury him in the ground, but it happens that my good friends are all bad-mouthed guys." As he said that, Ron took out a tax receipt that he had prepared long ago from his pocket and pushed it to Bryce from the table. The amount on it was exactly $40 million, which was 80% of Bryce's income from betraying the president. After returning to the familiar Los Angeles, Ron immediately went to watch the latest Star Wars sequel alone. Although it was not the premiere but the third day of the movie's release, the cinema was still crowded. After all, the Star Wars series has a very high status among American science fiction fans. Together with the Star Trek series, they are known as the two giants of American science fiction movies, just like the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War. Therefore, every new sequel will be as lively as a festival, and Sheldon and his group of young scientists are fanatical fans of these two works. Ron is of course one of them. "Ron, long time no see, I heard you went fishing. You don't know what you missed," Raj said exaggeratedly. "If I tell you, you will definitely jump up in surprise. Star Wars premiere." "Of course I know," Ron said indifferently. "Do you think this can surprise me? It's still too naive." "No, I'm not talking about this. It's Amy's birthday." When Raj talked about this, the other two laughed obscenely, and Ron was a little confused. "Amy's birthday? You celebrated her birthday? Did she and Sheldon get back together?" "Well, this news is unexpected enough, but not enough to make me jump for joy." "Are you kidding? Ron just handled a White House coup." Although only Hobbs and Banning's names were mentioned in the media, Ron's role was definitely much higher than theirs. What could be more surprising than this? Not only did they get back together, Leonard also came to Ron and whispered, Sheldon also gave himself to Amy as a birthday present. As a birthday present for himself? Wait. It can't be. Ron's eyes widened. He thought of a possibility, but still couldn't believe it. Yes, that's it. Sheldon is no longer a virgin. What? Ron jumped up from the sofa in surprise. Our Cooper family has a successor, thank God. Sheldon, a virgin for thousands of years, finally got it. This is definitely a miracle from God. At this moment, Ron just wants to say to his mother, thank you for your years of prayers, God really exists. At this moment, Sheldon walked out of the bedroom, glanced at Ron, and said unhappily, the freeloader is here again. Sheldon, Ron called his brother excitedly, what do you think? Oh, it's really great. Before Ron had time to continue asking, Sheldon continued with a satisfied look on his face. Yesterday I went to see the Star Wars movie by myself, and the movie was amazing. No, I'm not talking about the movie, it's something else. I'm asking about Amy. Ron glanced at Sheldon's lower body with a strange look, but Sheldon still didn't understand what Ron meant. Amy, are you talking about? She's not like me. She has deep feelings for this series, but her overall evaluation is not bad. Silly, Ron is asking about your and Amy's birthdays. Leonard couldn't help but remind him. Forget it, it's really not feasible to expect Sheldon to come to his senses. Ron looked at Sheldon, who was still as confused as a child, and simply gave up the treatment. Maybe when the child is born, he still doesn't understand what's going on. Do you have any other news? Who said I don't know? Although I'm not a biologist, I know more about reproduction than you do. The process of making life is, stop. Sheldon, stop. Ron interrupted Sheldon's endless chatter. We are talking about completely different things. You are talking about the method of making life, and we want to discuss the process of making life. Let's stop here. Howard, you seem to be a little silent today. What happened? In the past, Howard was always the one who talked the most among these people, but today, from the time Ron came in until now, Howard has been sitting aside in a daze, not even participating in such a violent topic as Sheldon's entry into the adult world. I have something to tell you. Howard stood up and took a deep breath. What happened? I'm going to be a father, Howard announced loudly. Congratulations, that's great. Everyone gave their blessings and congratulations, but Sheldon was the only one who was unhappy. Oh, that's too bad, Sheldon. Be polite. Ron glared at him. Why do you say it's too bad? Chapter 488 Baby. Because of the baby, everything has changed, Sheldon complained. What about the future comic nights? Can we still play games happily together? Can we still go to Disneyland together? How will we do these things after we have kids? Don't be nervous, Sheldon. I think everyone can tolerate two babies at the same time. Ron patted Sheldon's back to comfort him, but it unexpectedly had the opposite effect. Sheldon looked up and looked at Ron in horror. What? Two babies? Whose belly did you get pregnant? Those two cake vendors? Or the snotty girl from Tosi's family? Oh my god, you can't be. Ron was speechless. I didn't get anyone pregnant. I'm talking about you. Sheldon, you are our other big baby. I believe that no matter how naughty the baby is, it won't be more annoying than you, really? How am I a child? Sheldon shouted dissatisfiedly. Which baby needs to shave every 11 days? Which adult would run around wearing anime-themed t-shirts every day? Or spend all their pocket money on train toys and comics? Or, what adult needs their mother to warm up their cat and put it to sleep when they are sick? Or, stop. Sheldon interrupted Ron's chatterbox. I only said one thing, so you only need to say one thing. There is no need to say so much. We're tied this round. Okay, let's talk about baby Sheldon later. Howard, how does it feel to be a father? Ron's words once again drew everyone's attention back to Howard, but Howard's situation was not too good. He immediately started to get hysterical. You know what? I shouldn't be a father. I don't like vegetables myself. How can I ask my children to eat them? And Sheldon, as Ron said just now, I read comics and play games every day. Oh my god, Ron is right. I am a big baby myself. Howard, I think you may be overreacting. Leonard rolled his eyes at Ron and tried to calm Howard down. Or, you can bring Sheldon and your child with you, and the three of you can go back to kindergarten together. At least I can guarantee that no other child will be able to bully you this time. Wait? You really won't be bullied by other children, right? Ron was a little unsure after thinking about the fact that Howard and Sheldon were not as strong as a chicken. It shouldn't be. Howard was also unsure, but he immediately realized that this was not the point. None of this matters. The point is, look at my ugly hooked nose. What if a child looks like me? Even worse, what if the daughter looks like me? She won't be able to get married. Howard, under normal circumstances, you should ask what if the child doesn't look like you, Raj kindly reminded, but strangely, when he said this, his eyes were looking at Ron. Howard looked over and couldn't help but sigh. That's great, Ron, you don't have that problem. Whether it's a boy or a girl, it's okay if they look like you. I suggest you don't do it. It will be embarrassing if your child looks like me. Ron lowered his head with a guilty conscience. Although he and Bernadette were innocent, he kept in touch with Hope. The most amazing thing was that after Hope knew that Ron had a friend whose girlfriend looked exactly like him, she asked Ron to call her Bernadette every time they played together. Ron refused at first, but then, well, there's only one thing Ron can say about this. After all, you sports stars are good at playing, from gymnastics to cosplay games, and now you're even playing your husband's ex-husbands. Fortunately, Sheldon brought the topic back on track. Yeah, not to mention the impact of this incident on our social circle. Everything will change, and Howard can't come over as often as before. Raj, he can bring the child with him, but in that case, we'll have to install baby protection in the apartment. My sister Missy's bathroom has a toilet lock, so a PhD with a double degree, can only pee in the sink. Who told you to lose the toilet key? Or if you didn't drink so much yogurt, you wouldn't have to go to the toilet so often. Don't blame everything on others, Sheldon. Howard suddenly turned his gaze to Ron, his eyes turned slyly. The point is, do you know how much it costs to raise a child? Someone has done statistics. It costs more than $1 million to raise a child in Los Angeles until he graduates from college. My God. $1 million. As Howard shouted hard, everyone focused their eyes on Ron. Only Sheldon was a little confused by the weird atmosphere. $1 million is indeed a lot. But why are you all looking at Ron? Yes, why are you all looking at me? Ron continued with Sheldon's words. Or, you can ask Bernadette to give you more pocket money. Although Howard received another salary from Ron, compared with Bernadette, his income was still much lower. After all, Bernadette worked for one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the United States. In order to encourage the enthusiasm of R&D personnel can directly participate in the dividends of drug sales. Think about it, for every medicine sold, Bernadette will get 1 cent. It sounds like a small amount, but don't forget that the purpose of modern medical capital is not to cure diseases and save lives. In order to obtain the maximum profit, medical capital will generally not bring it to the market, even if it develops a special medicine for a non-lethal disease, but will hide it, and instead launch another medicine that can alleviate the condition but cannot cure it. In this way, in order to alleviate the condition, people will keep buying medicine and taking it, which will become a stable income for medical capital until they die. That's why some people say that after the end of the Cold War, The biggest beneficiaries, not outdated things such as industrial capital or military capital, but medical capital. Because the regime that is truly capable and has the goal of liberating everyone has collapsed, medical capital no longer has to worry about the Soviet Union launching the miracle medicine that they are using to drag down the wallets of ordinary people with chronic diseases. Ron, I'm not kidding. Howard looked at Ron seriously. Ron knew that he would not be able to make it if he didn't bleed today. Okay, I'll give you a raise. Yeah, Leonard and Howard jumped up and cheered loudly. Sheldon and Raj looked at them in confusion, not understanding what they were excited about. As for the two of them, Sheldon only needed to meet basic survival needs, and make the food more delicious, and have enough games and comics, and basically had no other expenses. As for Rajesh, salary was dispensable to him. Even with the extra salary given by Ron, it was not as much as his father's pocket money. He did scientific research as a hobby, but his hobby was a little more advanced. It was too difficult to expect these two people to be excited about the salary increase. Quiet, guys, quiet. Ron pressed his hands down to calm the excited friends, but I want to make it clear in advance that I can't raise your salary by much. At most, it will be about $1,000 more per month. Why? Leonard asked disappointedly. Because the project you helped me do is a non-profit weapons development project. If the weapons are not sold to the outside world, it is impossible to make a profit. It can only be a project that keeps burning money. Although my IRS Special Operations team does make a lot of money, it doesn't burn money this way. Ron said the truth. Everyone knew that although Ron had money, it was Ron's own money. He had no obligation to support his friends. Besides, Howard and his team knew how much their work was worth. Although they were indeed the top scientists, they had not created much value. Most of their work was theoretical research. Only Howard's engineering work was somewhat related to practice, but it was also a large-scale scientific project and would not increase his income much. Howard lowered his head in frustration. You are right. I was just momentary, don't be so depressed. Do you know what we should do now? Ron patted Sheldon's thigh and stood up. Sheldon rubbed his leg, which was hurt by being slapped, and complained, Are we all going to get sterilization surgery to prevent future troubles? Of course not. Instead, we should find a place to have a drink. Oh my God, why do you have such an idea? Ron rolled his eyes at Sheldon. First of all, we have to celebrate our first father, Howard. Secondly, we need to think of a good idea. Use your scientific minds and my capital to start a company together. This time, we want to do a profitable project and make a lot of money. 40 minutes later, Ron repeated what he had just said in the foursome's favorite bar and raised his glass. Let's raise a toast to our friend, Howard, a man with a broad mind and a beautiful soul, a man who is not infertile even if he wears tights. Raj interrupted and clinked glasses with Ron. Cheers. After a round of drinks, Howard took off the small umbrella on the cocktail and said with emotion, Look at this, the person who invented this little umbrella must be making a fortune now. He can have as many children as he wants without worrying about money. It can also block the rain from a small part of the head, Sheldon said with a red face. Although it was a cocktail, he still maintained his unbeaten record and got drunk in one sip. If I want to raise a child, I must think of a super profitable idea, but I don't have any ideas in my mind now, Howard said distressedly. In fact, the idea is in your hands, friends, and you have even been studying it for a long time. Don't you find it? Ron looked at several scientists who were still worried about money and took the initiative to speak. What he got in return were several pairs of incredulous eyes. How is it possible? If we have a super profitable project, how come we don't know about it? Oh my God, Ron almost choked to death on his whiskey. Recently I asked you to help me research a new Metsta energy supply system. I remember Sheldon seemed to have been inspired and made new progress. Right, yes, that's right. I redesigned it based on Crystal's energy storage principle. The idea of that battery is good, but it's too radical. So it's easy to cause explosions and super electromagnetic waves that can cause damage to the human body. After my improvements, although the energy density is much smaller, I guarantee that it is absolutely very safe. As Sheldon spoke, he drank the cocktail in one gulp, then fell headfirst onto the table and fell asleep. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Ron took Sheldon's face from the plate of snacks and put it on the table. I think, after Sheldon's re-examination, the battery should be better than the current lithium battery. Right, of course. It's so much better when talking about this. Raj couldn't help dancing with joy. Its energy density is almost 3 times that of the current lithium battery, and it is almost unaffected by temperature. We have tried to operate it in a low-temperature environment of -60 degrees Celsius, and the power loss is less than 10%. This is already the lowest temperature on Earth. Ron lowered his voice and smiled mysteriously. So, do you know what this means? What does it mean? It means that if all electric cars are replaced with this kind of battery, fuel-powered cars will be beaten without any chance of fighting back. That's right, we will become the overlord of new energy. Sheldon was awakened by a burst of urination in a daze. He just finished his cocktail in one gulp and drank too much water. Where's the toilet? Over there, at the corner, Raj said. I really hope the male and female signs in the toilet can be more obvious. It doesn't matter. He's going to the kitchen anyway. Ram shrugged. Raj just pointed casually, but Sheldon followed his finger and walked in the opposite direction. Where were we talking just now? The fuel car will be beaten without any chance to fight back. By the way, we can sell the batteries to Tesla. Howard is now focused on making money and is very sensitive to this matter. I met Musk himself when I went to volunteer with Bernadette last time. I have his business card. Howard excitedly took out a wrinkled business card from his pocket. From the sweat stains clearly visible on it, it can be inferred that this business card has been repeatedly rubbed in Howard's hands. That's his assistant's phone number. I don't think that the laughing Tony will tell Musk about something that sounds like a fairy tale. Ron glanced and took out his mobile phone. I'd better call him. Wait, you have Musk's phone number? Several friends stared at Ron in disbelief. Of course, didn't I tell you? I'm one of the shareholders of Space Exploration. Chapter 489 Goodbye Musk and the Mysterious Woman. Several friends held their breath at the same time after being hit by this shocking news. There was no way. Although Musk was a businessman, in the minds of these scientists, his status was no less than that of an academic star. Of course, all this was not because Musk was so great, but the result of marketing by the public relations team over the years. At this moment, Sheldon stumbled back. The toilet here is amazing. There are people cooking in it. Well, it seems that Sheldon really peed in the kitchen sink. Guys, from now on, don't order any food here, because they may be stained with Sheldon's urine. Ron couldn't help but move the salad that the waiter had just brought a little further away. However, if I go to find Musk, I need to at least come up with a similar finished product first, so that I have enough bargaining chips. What about this, Howard? It only takes 1 day. I can get it done in 1 day. We have already made some battery module samples for Power Mechas. We just need to improve them slightly. Speaking of Musk, I think this person is amazing, Sheldon said dizzily. I don't know if it's an illusion. I always have a feeling of confidence towards him. His idea of rocket recovery is exactly the same as what I imagined when I was a child. I think we will definitely get along well if we meet. How is that possible? You must be overthinking it, Sheldon. Ron guiltily took a big gulp of whiskey to calm himself down. After all, Musk is just a businessman with a lot of money on his body. How can he possibly get along with you? That's true, Sheldon nodded with his eyes wide open. The alcohol had basically made him lose the ability to think. He could only use his fragile neck to barely support his big head bit by bit. He looked like a pervert who took advantage of his drunkenness to peek under the skirt of a waitress, such as Raj next to him. Raj. Ron's eyes twitched. If you are really interested, go up and ask for her phone number. Maybe women will think you are more confident. But now you look like this. Although I am your good friend, I have to say that you look a little bit wretched. Are you saying that I have a chance to get the phone number of the white-haired angel over there? Raj asked expectantly. You won't know unless you try, but our topic today is not to pick up girls. Ron clinked glasses with Howard. Well done, Howard, look at you. You're going to be a millionaire less than a day after finding out you're going to be a father. I believe you'll be a good father. I hope so. Of course. Brothers, do you want to have some fun? I noticed that this store even has self-service KTV equipment. Who wants to sing with me? By the way, Howard, send a message and ask the girls to come over. Raj went to chat with a waitress for a few words, and when he came back with a small piece of paper with a phone number on it, he was beaming with joy. Have fun, then. I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. Hearing that they were going to sing, Ron felt that he couldn't stay any longer, and decisively found an excuse to run away. There was no way. The singing of this group of people was too unique. In short, the high notes could not reach and the low notes could not reach. Especially when it came to the high notes, they all cried like cats whose tails were stepped on. Ron didn't want to have nightmares when he went back at night. Because Ron was a major shareholder of Space Exploration Company. He didn't need Mr. Taozai's help this time. He just made a phone call and met Musk again on the third day arranged by his assistant. Ron, long time no see. I heard that you have done a lot of big things recently. Even Vice President Bryce was thrown into jail by you. It's amazing. Unlike the unfamiliarity and defensiveness when they first met, Musk gave Ron a big hug this time. Of course, it is hard to say how much sincerity there was in it. The current political situation in the United States has become very strange because of the White House incident. President Frank is still in hospital receiving treatment for injuries sustained in the attack, but according to reports that were spread intentionally or unintentionally, it is highly unlikely that he will be able to continue to perform his duties as president. Frank can't even control his bowels and bladder, let alone control the United States. According to U.S. law, the power of the interim president surprisingly fell to the third in line, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Republican Speaker Alan Trimble, who supported Ron and Hobbs. Therefore, many people outside speculated that Ron had a close relationship with the new interim president and might even have switched to the Republican Party. In fact, Ron does not belong to any faction. Ron's political view has always been that he will join whichever side gives more benefits. Ron himself is very powerful, and he has formed a relationship with a group of officials of all sizes in the finance department, which seems to be a partnership between the two parties. That's just a coincidence, Elon. Ron opened his arms. How is the company going recently? To be honest, I've begun to regret listening to you and not selling the company's shares. For so many years, I haven't received a penny in dividends. Although he was complaining, there was no unhappiness in Ron's eyes, but full of smiles, because he knew that the time to really make big money has just begun. As long as you are willing to sell your shares, I am now willing to purchase all your shares at 1.5 times the market price. Do you want to sell? Forget it. Money doesn't matter. The main thing is that I am very willing to do my part for human spaceflight, so keep your money so that it can be put to more useful uses. I don't think you would be so kind. Musk lit a cigar for himself and handed one to Ron as usual. Last time you came to me, you took away shares that are now worth 1 billion yuan. What are you going to take from me this time? Don't say that, Elon. Although I took the shares last time, I also gave you a completely feasible rocket recovery plan. Hasn't this plan become your golden signboard now? We are a win-win situation. Win-win? Do you mean you won twice? Ron felt a little guilty when he said this. Although on the surface, this statement was correct, only Ron himself knew that he had indeed won twice. That's right. Once he got Sheldon's notebook for free, and then he used Sheldon's notebook to get Musk stocks for free. That means he won twice. It's really a freeloader. Of course, he can't say that. Well, of course not. I mean, you won, and I won too. In fact, I didn't come here empty-handed this time. I brought you a gift. Are you talking about the car you parked at the door? Musk was able to achieve his career today, and of course he had something unusual about him. He noticed the car Ron was driving today. It was a Toyota car. But it didn't make the noise of a fuel engine that is unique to ordinary cars. Obviously, it was also an electric car. If your goal is to sell electric car technology to Tesla, then I think you've made a wrong calculation, Musk said confidently. Although I don't know what interesting technology you have come up with, the main selling point of my Tesla is not the technology of the electric car itself, but the platform, the self-learning and evolving autonomous driving platform based on the car itself. This is the core competitiveness of Tesla. If AI continues to learn by itself, sooner or later it can completely replace the role of the driver. People only need to tell the car where they want to go, and the car will take them to their destination safely. Of course not. What I want to talk to you about is what's inside the car. Ron smiled mysteriously. What if I tell you that it has a battery that has 3 times the energy density of a lithium battery and can run perfectly in a low-temperature environment? Now, are all the most criticized problems of electric cars solved? How is that possible? At this point, Musk finally lost his composure and was so shocked that he even dropped his cigar from his hand and burned a hole in the precious carpet. The two most well-known companies under Musk's name are Space Exploration and the electric car and energy company with Tesla as its main product. Space Exploration Company is mainly engaged in satellite launches, transporting materials to the International Space Station, and space tourism in the future. These businesses are very profitable, but considering the higher R&D costs of the Falcon rocket itself, It is only at the level of recovering its investment. It has always relied on electric car and energy companies for blood transfusions. But electric cars are electric cars after all, and they can never compete with fuel cars in terms of driving range. In the past 2 years, Tesla's domestic market has become saturated. If what Ron said is true, it means that electric cars led by Tesla will have the possibility of completely replacing fuel cars. The United States is known as a country on wheels. Almost every household cannot do without cars. If it really replaces fuel cars, you can imagine how big a piece of cake it will be. Musk can't help but be excited. I don't think you will believe it, so I just drove the prototype over. I believe you will give me a satisfactory price after testing it, so that I don't have to go to other places again. Seeing Musk's reaction, Ron nodded with satisfaction and said meaningfully, "Howard, do you remember the beautiful woman with white hair that we met in the bar that night? She is actually a screenwriter. She even invited me out for a drink. She wanted me to help her improve some scientific aspects of the script." On the rooftop of Ron's apartment in Pasadena, Raj excitedly shouted to Howard, "Calm down, Raj, calm down. Do you need me to remind you? You have a girlfriend," Howard said while working on the machine at hand. "So," Howard raised his head and said, "so, how do you think she would feel if she knew that you helped a beautiful woman write the script?" "Man, I don't think she is a beauty, right?" Raj covered up with a guilty conscience. "Really? Don't you think she is charming?" Howard expressed doubt. "Yes, I just won't tell my girlfriend." Raj's scumbag nature was exposed. "I just helped her improve the script. She took the initiative to ask me out. Do you know what this means? It means that there is finally a woman who is not close to me just to get close to Ron. I think she is in love with me." "Then have you ever thought about what to do with Emily?" "It's hard to say. Before the day before yesterday, we were making good progress, but now, I'm starting to think whether Emily is my true love," Raj said dreamily. "Or, can I have more than one woman like Ron?" "I think you are dreaming. Not every man can be Ron. Just look at his women and you will know that their kidneys can't stand it." Howard shook his head and reminded kindly. If he envied Ron's playboy life before marriage, he completely lost this idea after marriage. Just one Bernadette made his small body almost unable to bear it, let alone another one. "Hey. You are looking down on me." Raj waved his arms in dissatisfaction, as if he was playing an accordion. "I am Indian. No one in the world knows XX better than us. The world's earliest XX textbook, the Kama Sutra, was written by us Indians. My fighting power can control any woman. If Ron were here, he would definitely complain. Not to mention women, he would believe you even if you said you could fuck lizards." But Howard is not Ron. He is a comrade in arms who has fought together with Raj. Apart from those women, he knows best how powerful Raj is. "I know your level. When we played with that little fat girl at the comic convention, I was the main output." However, the two people who were bickering did not notice that when they were talking, a ball of light above their heads was getting brighter and brighter. "It's obvious that I am more powerful. If a woman falls from the sky now, I promise to let you see what Indian technology is." Before Raj finished speaking, the ball of light above their heads suddenly exploded silently, and a naked woman fell from it and happened to fall into Raj's arms. The two people who were bragging were stunned. "Raj, have you ever had your mouth blessed? Tell me honestly, are you God's illegitimate child? You just said you wanted a woman, and a woman fell from the sky? Nonsense. I obviously believe in Hinduism. Even if it is an illegitimate child, it is the illegitimate child of Lord Shiva." Raj turned around and poked the woman in his arms with his hand in disbelief. "Alive. This is really a living person." He just said it casually, but he never thought that it would come true. He was at a loss. "Howard, what should we do now?" Howard pointed at the woman in his arms. The woman had short blonde hair, a beautiful face and an absolutely hot body. Anyone who saw her would praise her as a stunner. Please start your performance. Chapter 490 Negotiation Failure. "Okay, I'm just going to perform a fart." Raj was halfway through his words when he suddenly realized something was wrong and shouted in panic, "Come on, something bad has happened. A woman fell from the sky. Where did this woman come from? We are already on the rooftop. Did she fall from a plane? But there was no plane passing by just now. Is she an alien? Do aliens look so good now? I don't know, but the touch feels the same as that of us earthlings." Raj reached back and poked the woman's face. "Her skin is very soft. Howard, come and touch it too." Just as Raj was about to try the touch of other parts of her body besides her face, the short-haired woman's eyelashes moved slightly, and then she suddenly opened her eyes. Raj's hand, which was about to do something strange, froze in the air. You're awake, who are you? Raj changed his hand from reaching out to touch to preparing to help the woman up, but he didn't expect that as soon as his hand touched the woman's body, the woman seemed to be suddenly activated by something, and a flash of red light flashed in her eyes. Low threat target, suspected erotic tendencies. A hand suddenly grabbed Raj's wrist, and the foot touched the ground, and the whole person flipped up from the ground, and by the way, he lifted Raj's arm and pushed him to the ground. What are you doing? We just want to help you. I warn you, let Raj go. Otherwise, I will definitely make you look good. Howard made several karate gestures in succession. I warn you, I'm a karate white belt. Even though the woman's beautiful white chest was exposed due to her movements, Howard didn't want to look at it, but just nervously circled around the woman. After all, Raj is the true love. Zero threat target, combat mode lifted. In the woman's eyes, Howard was coated with a layer of harmless green light, and the strange red light in the woman's eyes extinguished, turning into black pupils that were no different from ordinary people. Although they were still empty, they were at least more lively than before. She still didn't let go of Raj, and looked around curiously, and finally locked her eyes on Howard. What year is it now? Where is this place? Of course it's 2017, and this is Pasadena. Let go of Raj, he can't breathe, Howard shouted anxiously. What month and date is it? The woman asked. May 6th, let go, the landing site is too far away. Fortunately, there are still 2 days, we need to start the action immediately, the woman muttered to herself and let go, and Raj fell to the ground and gasped for breath, unable to say a word for a while. The woman looked at Raj, then lowered her head to look at her exposed skin. Give me your clothes. No. Raj panicked and protected his chest with both hands, like a poor girl who was about to be raped, but his little resistance was really not enough for the woman. For some reason, this woman was surprisingly strong, and she stripped Raj clean in just a few strokes, leaving only a pair of underwear on the rooftop shivering in the wind, and Howard condemned this robbery verbally throughout the whole process, but it was useless. It's wrong to steal someone's clothes. We will call the police. Yes, we will definitely call the police. We have a very powerful friend, Ron, he will definitely. Wait? You mean Ron? The woman's eyes suddenly regained their spirits. Ron Lee Cooper, do you know Ron? He is our good friend, take me to see him. Howard had just finished speaking when his eyes blurred and the woman had come to him and grabbed his shoulders with both hands, saying anxiously. You heard me. Howard patted the woman's hand, and the force on his shoulder finally loosened a little. He should be discussing cooperation with Musk now, but I can call him. Howard and Drager looked at each other and exchanged glances. Well, it seems that this is another debt of love that Ron has caused from nowhere. No wonder he is so powerful. Maybe he is Ron's colleague. But this time they guessed wrong. $200 million plus 15% of Tesla shares. Elon, this price can't be any lower. After testing the performance of the battery in Ron's car, the negotiation quickly entered the bargaining stage. It's impossible. You are only selling the right to use the patent. Back to the most familiar business field, Musk returned to the shrewd nature of a businessman. If you are willing to sell the patent technology directly, I am willing to pay even twice the price. You can consider it carefully. That's impossible. What a joke. The new battery technology with 3 times the energy density of lithium batteries and not affected by low temperatures is not an exaggeration to say that it is a new energy revolution. This means that electric vehicles will have the possibility of completely replacing fuel vehicles. Such a big cake, Musk wants to swallow it all by himself, and his appetite is too big. It seems that we have nothing to talk about. Maybe I can ask other car companies that are interested in electric vehicles. Maybe they can meet my needs. Don't you think so? Elon, Ron smiled and took a sip of coffee. His tone was gentle, but the content was full of threats. Of course, it is your freedom to choose who to cooperate with, and it is also our freedom. Musk emphasized the word we. Although your technology is indeed very powerful, maybe others have the same idea as me, and the current batteries are just enough. Ron can threaten Musk with technology, and Musk can of course threaten Ron with his industry status. No matter how superior the performance of the battery is, it is useless if there is no car to use it. If Musk is too stingy and joins hands with other auto giants to strangle Ron's new battery technology, he will have to face a very embarrassing situation. That is, he has a good thing that is far beyond the market, but he can't sell it. Even, they can join the media to discredit the new battery, just like discrediting a certain big country. Even if they eat a little more meat, it is a sin and will have a bad impact on the global environment. The negotiations have reached a deadlock at this point. At this moment, a crisp mobile phone ring rang. Sorry, I have something to do. Let's stop here for today and talk later. Ron glanced at the message on his phone and frowned. Of course, you are welcome to come back anytime. Musk raised his hand to see him off. However, as your senior in the business world, I can give you a little experience for free today. The tricks of buying vegetables in the market are useless in business negotiations. When you figure it out, you can contact my assistant at any time. Goodbye, Ron. Chapter 491 People from the Future? Obviously, Musk regarded Ron's phone ringtone as a negotiation method that he had arranged long ago, and he had certainly used this trick before. Just like housewives buying vegetables in the vegetable market, if they can't agree on the price of the vegetables they like, they will pretend to leave first, or pretend to buy from other vendors, to lure the vendors to lower the price or compromise. If the vendors don't compromise, they will immediately pretend that nothing happened and buy at the previous price. Because almost everything in the United States is bought in supermarkets, there are fewer and fewer housewives who can play this trick. On the contrary, in another country across the ocean, this little trick is almost a must-have skill for every housewife. However, just as Musk was sitting in his office, smoking a cigar, thinking about what words he should use to tease Ron when he returns, his assistant brought him an unexpected news. Ron is really gone. You are the one who threatened my friend and said you were going to find me? Who are you? On the rooftop of the apartment, Ron looked at the woman wearing Raj's clothes and asked curiously. For some reason, the woman's slender limbs gave him a very powerful feeling. This feeling was not affected by Raj's crying just now. There are many women who can defeat these two little Atticus, and Penny is one of them. It is a judgment based on instinct. The woman rushed to Ron excitedly. Just when Howard and Raj were looking forward to the show, waiting to watch the bloody love drama, they didn't expect the woman to suddenly squat in front of Ron, put her right fist on her heart, and made a strange salute. I'm Grace. Great, I finally meet you, mentor. Ron only thought about this strange title for a moment and understood the origin of the woman in front of him. He had never taught anywhere before. There was only one possibility for someone to call him like this. Are you from the future too? How is Jack now? Jack? Who is Jack? Grace was confused now. Jack Lee Cooper. Okay, if you don't know Jack, then how did you know my name? Ron asked in confusion. Grace said with great respect, from the leader, and you're the leader's mentor, and also the mentor of all of us. I learned to shoot from you. Okay, Ron is now more and more confused about what is happening in the future. One moment, his son is in love with a mother of the savior, and the next moment, he becomes a mentor. He has begun to feel a little numb. Then why are you looking for me from the future? Let me guess, it must be Skynet that sent some perverted robot back to the past, and then wants to kill your leader. Right, the mentor is indeed worthy of being a mentor. You are really amazing. How did you guess it? Grace said excitedly. If you were attacked by robots from the future twice, you would also guess the story after listening to the beginning. Okay, Raj Howard, it seems that I need to go with you. Please tell Sheldon for me, Grace. Right, Grace nodded. Where is the leader in your story now? Not him, but her. Her name is Dani Ramos, and she lives in Mexico now. Tijuana is an inconspicuous town on the border between Mexico and the United States. Because it is close to the United States, many large American companies have built factories here because of the cheap labor costs. Then, the factory employees are scattered around these factories to form residential areas. Dani lives in one of them. At this moment, the originally clear sky suddenly thundered, and then a ball of light condensed and formed next to the dilapidated residential building, which was exactly the same as the ball of light when the woman appeared in Raj's arms. Immediately, a naked man fell out of the ball of light, shocking the ant who was collecting clothes just passing by. Good morning. The man looked at the clothes in the ant's hand, nodded with satisfaction, and touched the clothes. Then something magical happened. On the man, it seemed to grow out of his body. The clothes in the ant's hand gradually grew out of the man's body and covered his whole body. If Ron saw this scene, he would be envious. Just by touching it, he could grow the same clothes on his body. How much money can he save in a year? Thank you. The man nodded politely to the ant and broke her neck. He was the new Terminator robot from the future, and his target was Danny, mentioned by Gracia. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on Danny's door. An old man opened the door and looked at the young man outside in confusion. Hello, what's the matter? I'm here to see Danny Ramos. I'm her friend, the man outside said. So. Really? The old man doubted his words. That's strange. Her friends don't call her by her full name. They all call her Danny. Danny? Thank you, I see. The man nodded, showing a weird smile, and inserted his palm into the old man's chest. That is to say, the person who is to be rescued this time is not only unable to have children, but also a savior herself. She found you one by one from the ruins of the world destroyed by Skynet, and then formed a resistance army to defeat Skynet. I am very curious, what role do I play in this story? On the streets of Tijuana, Ron was driving and asking questions. After communicating with two outstanding scientists, Howard and Raj, he came to a conclusion. Whether it was the T-800 who came to assassinate him for the first time, or the old savior John who came with his son and was corrupted by Skynet, they did not return to the real past, but came to a parallel time and space similar to the past. Because of the correlation between these parallel time and space, their past timeline and the timeline where Ron was located were quantum entangled, and thus also affected. Although they did not return to the real past, they also changed the history of their time and space. However, Howard and Raj disagreed on whether Ron also entered another parallel time when these events occurred, but Ron did not have the time to care so much about them. After all, saving the world is more important. You are the instructor hired by the leader. You taught all of us all the combat knowledge, so we all call you mentor. In the past, I was your best student, but I never beat you once. Maybe after rescuing Danny, we can find time to try. Forget it. There is no comparison at all. You are a cyborg, and I am just flesh and blood. Ron shook his head, rejecting this stupid idea. Chapter 492. Another savior. Danny worked at the car manufacturing plant. Less than 10 minutes after she arrived at her workstation, a familiar figure caught her eye. Dad? Why are you here? Shouldn't your brother take you to the hospital for a checkup today? Danny looked at the old man who had just come in and said strangely. I think you forgot to bring your lunch. The old man waved the paper bag in his hand and walked towards Danny with a kind smile. He had only taken 2 steps when Grace, who was wearing a security uniform, suddenly raised her gun. Bang! Ah! The old man's head was blown to pieces. Danny was frightened by the scene and screamed shrilly. But before she could react from the shock, her father's head twisted like a ball of plasticine and miraculously recovered. Run! Someone will meet you outside. Grace grabbed Danny and threw her behind her, then skillfully loaded the shotgun and pulled the trigger again at Danny's father who had just recovered. Boom boom boom. The shotgun blasted holes in the old man's body, but it did not cause any damage except that the old man was pushed back a few steps. At this time, no matter how stupid Danny was, she could see that this thing that looked like her father was definitely not a human. She ran outside quickly. She couldn't pretend anymore, so she simply stopped pretending. Starting from the part where the old man was shot, his clothes and skin turned outwards, and in an instant, he turned into a young man with an evil look. If Danny's father was here, he would definitely recognize him. He was the man who knocked on her door just now and claimed to be Danny's friend. Grace's shotgun was soon empty. The man laughed evilly, kicked his feet on the ground, and rushed towards Gracia. Gracia quickly threw the empty shotgun over, but this little hindrance was completely useless. The man smiled grimly and jumped hard. Seeing that hideous face getting closer and closer to her, Gracia felt desperate. She hoped that the mentor could successfully rescue the leader. This was her last thought before closing her eyes. However, the expected pain did not come. With a bang, Grace opened her eyes and saw Ron swinging a sledgehammer, hitting the man's face hard and knocking him to the ground. This was not over yet. Ron did not stop, and raised the hammer high again and smashed it again, and then repeated it over and over again. 80. But this attack did not last too long. After only 5 hits, the back of the man's head seemed to melt, and a stream of metal liquid wrapped around Ron's sledgehammer. Grace hurriedly reminded. Teacher, be careful. Seeing this, Ron let go and threw away the hammer. The man with a hammer on his head suddenly bounced up from the ground. Just as he stood still, Ron threw something at him, then kicked his feet on the ground and rolled backwards. The man's computer immediately found out that something was wrong with this thing through calculation, but it was too late. As the ball in his hand exploded with a harsh sound, and a wave invisible to the naked eye spread out from the small ball as the center. As soon as the wave touched the man's body, he melted on the ground like a puddle of mud. "Run, we have 5 minutes at most, or less." Ron pulled up Grace, who fell to the ground, and then the two of them carried Danny and left quickly. Sure enough, not long after they left, the pool of metal liquid regrouped into a human shape under the watch of the surrounding workers. "Who are you? What is that thing? Why does he want to kill me? Where are you taking me?" In the car, Danny asked a bunch of questions like 100,000 whys. Grace was about to speak, but Ron answered first. "That's the Terminator robot. Grace, the lady next to you, the person who protects you, may be able to tell you its model. In short, it is a type I have never seen. In short, it traveled from the future and wants to kill you because you killed its host in the future." Ron's answer was so skillful that it made people feel distressed. "As for where I am taking you, I'm not going to tell you until you throw all your phones out of the car. Grace, what are you waiting for?" "Yes, mentor." Grace saluted Ron, and without further ado, she immediately snatched Danny's phone and threw it out of the car. "My phone?" Danny was anxious. "I haven't called my father and brother yet. They will be worried. I don't think it's necessary." "That's a Rev 9 Terminator, which can turn into everything he has touched, which means that he has already seen your father. I don't think that a machine like the Terminator, which is mainly aimed at killing humans, would let them go." "What? You said my father and brother have already?" Danny's tears suddenly burst out of her eyes. "You must be lying to me. Let me get out of the car. I want to find my father and brother." Danny began to pull the car door hard. Grace was about to reach out to pull her, but Ron, who was driving, suddenly turned around and slapped her in the face. "Pa!" Danny was stunned. "Wake up, you saw how brutal that thing was just now. You know very well that she is not lying. There is only one thing you can do now, that is to avenge your family, understand?" Ron picked up the shotgun on the passenger seat and threw it into Danny's arms behind him. "Take it, blow his head off now." In the rearview mirror, a high-speed sports car was approaching them at high speed. Sitting in the driver's seat was the new model Terminator that Ron had just blown into a puddle of mud on the car factory. Danny looked at the gun, then at the sports car that was slowly catching up behind her, gradually stopped crying, and instead spurted out a devouring flame from her eyes. Grace looked at Danny, whose temperament began to change, with a fanatical look in her eyes. This girl only really made her feel familiar now. The mentor is worthy of being a mentor. It was this kind of look. Danny leaned out of the window with a gun in her hand, locked the Terminator in the car behind with hatred, and then pulled the trigger. Boom! The huge recoil almost knocked Danny off the car, and the bullet flew away, not even hitting the side of the car, and even knocked the gun away. "Ha ha ha!" Ron laughed unkindly. Grace rolled her eyes helplessly. It seemed that the leader's growth path was still a long way to go. However, at this moment, a truck coming from the opposite direction suddenly crossed the center line and hit the Terminator's sports car hard. The huge inertia kept hitting the sports car against the guardrail before it stopped. Then, a capable old lady carrying a shotgun got out of the car. Ron's pupils shrank. He unexpectedly felt a sense of familiarity with this face. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 493. Ron, do you like Grandma too? The Terminator's body melted and squeezed out of the hole in the car window like toothpaste. Before he could stand still, the old lady shot him in the head. The shotgun fired bullets like an automatic rifle, hitting the Terminator backwards. Ron stopped the car and opened the trunk. The two electromagnetic harpoon launchers inside were the ones Ron used last time. The electric harpoon pierced the Terminator's abdomen and kept emitting electricity. But something unexpected happened to Ron. The Terminator actually removed the harpoon as if nothing had happened, raised his head and smiled evilly at him. "I think it would be better if you increase the power a little more." As he spoke, the Terminator's hands had turned into two sharp blades and slashed towards Ron's abdomen. Ron quickly rolled back, avoiding the first one but failing to avoid the second one. With a swish, Ron's clothes at the waist were cut open by the sharp blade, revealing the wound that had just been cut. "I was careless and didn't dodge." Ron took advantage of the opportunity when Grace fired and finally got rid of the Terminator's attack temporarily. "What's going on?" High-frequency electromagnetic waves are useless to it. It has a self-learning function. It will remember the way it hurts him every time, and then improve the nanorbits in its body to adapt to the same type of attack, Gracisa said while firing. As soon as she emptied the magazine, the old lady immediately filled in. The two of them took turns shooting like a relay, relying on the inertia of the bullets themselves, pushing the Terminator off the highway bridge bit by bit. But even so, the two of them were inevitably found opportunities by the Terminator and had several wounds on their bodies. However, although the number of wounds was more than Ron's, the depth was not as deep as Ron's, so it did not affect them much. The wound on the abdomen made Ron sweat coldly. The wound was a bit deep, but fortunately, it did not hurt the internal organs. Ron could still hold on and gritted his teeth to take out the rocket launcher of the fuel air bomb from the space. At this time, there was no time to hide the little secret. Saving lives was the most important thing. He unscrewed the cap and pointed the rocket launcher downward. The Terminator below had begun to condense and take shape again. Go to hell, boom. The huge shock wave of the explosion of the individual fuel air bomb knocked Ron over, just touching the wound, causing him to grimace in pain again. Great. Now we have at least 10 minutes to escape, Grace pulled Denny over excitedly. Seeing Ron's blood-stained clothes, she asked worriedly, "Are you okay, Mentor? Fortunately, I won't die for a while, but we have to find a safe place quickly. You drive." Ron threw the key to Grace, and glanced at the old lady next to him. "Although I don't know who you are, it seems that you should help us. Do you want to come with us?" "Okay, but I want to drive." The woman looked at Ron's face and agreed with a nostalgic expression. "No problem, Grace, give her the key. You know the way in Pasadena, right?" After the old lady nodded, Ron closed his eyes in the back seat with peace of mind. The wound was a bit deep, he needed to rest for a while. "Hi, Ron, welcome back." When Ron returned to the apartment with 3 women, 1 old and 2 young, Raj and Howard were still there. "Beautiful, we meet again. Can you tell me your name this time?" "No time." Before Raj finished speaking, Grace supported Ron and walked into Leonard's bedroom, followed by the 2 women behind. Then, a groan mixed with pain and comfort came from the room. The 2 little Atticus who were eavesdropping at the door were startled, and some bad images appeared in the minds of the 2 scientists with unhealthy thoughts. Ron finished groaning, and then Grace seemed to be holding back some muffled groans. Finally, there was even a slightly old female voice, groaning in pain. "Howard, what do you think they are doing in the room?" Raj asked in a low voice. They were lying on the door facing each other. Raj spoke, and the hot air from his mouth directly blew on Howard's ears, making his ears itchy. "Raj, can you please stop talking in my ear? It's too uncomfortable," Howard complained in a low voice. "I guess they must be doing that kind of thing in there." But there's an old lady in there. How could Ron do that? Raj's eyes widened in shock. So what? What if Ron is tired of playing with normal tastes? Howard guessed. Maybe he just happened to see the magazine I subscribed to, Sheldon, Grandma vs. Grandma, and then wanted to give it a try. Otherwise, how do you explain the hem sound in it? That's right, although the old lady is very old, it can be seen that she must have been a beauty when she was young, but I still can't believe that Ron would do such a thing. Just as Raj finished speaking, as if to prove Howard's words, the old lady's scolding came from the bedroom. "It hurts. Be gentler. I'm old and can't stand the torment of a young man like you." "Oh, sorry, I'll be gentler. How do you feel now?" "Much better." Howard and Raj opened their mouths in shock. Originally, they were just a little suspicious, and the teasing part was more than the confirmation. These few words of conversation immediately confirmed their obscene guesses. If Ron knew what these 2 guys were thinking about, he would definitely want to put their heads into the toilet and wash their dirty thoughts. "What do you think about all day?" In fact, Ron and Grace were just healing in the house. Because Leonard often stayed in Ron and Penny's apartment recently, he brought a lot of things from there. In order not to make the apartment too crowded, Ron put his medical kit and other unimportant things in Leonard's bedroom. The old lady's voice just now was Ron applying medicine to her. "Okay, it's okay. This kind of wound will heal completely in just 1 month." Ron bandaged the old lady's wound. "For so long, I haven't asked you who you are? Why are you there? You seem to know that we will appear there." "It's because of this message." The old lady took out a mobile phone from the tinfoil bag of potato chips. "Over the years, someone has been sending me messages telling me about the robot killers from the future. You are just one of them. As for my name, it's not worth mentioning. I'm Sarah Connor, a poor woman whose son died. What? Your name is Sarah Connor? Ron sat up from the bed in shock. He now finally understood why the old lady always gave him a familiar feeling. Chapter 494 Los Angeles Steel Plant. Ron finally knew why he felt familiar with this old lady, because he had just seen her not long ago. But what he had seen before was the beautiful youth version. If nothing unexpected happened, the affectionate look between the youth version of Sarah Connor and his son when he left would most likely make her his daughter-in-law. But now, his son was gone, and his daughter-in-law became an old lady. This huge gap made Ron a little bit unacceptable for a while, but fortunately, this was not the most urgent problem he was facing now. Ron walked over and opened the door, and the two eavesdropping thieves outside lost their support and immediately fell in front of him. Raj got up from the ground awkwardly and showed Ron a flattering smile. Ron, do you like old ladies too? If you are interested, Howard has a lot of such videos. Idiot. We are bandaging the wound. Ron moved aside, and Raj and Howard finally saw what was inside the bedroom. It was not as springy as they imagined, but a brown-skinned girl was quietly bandaging the wounds of the other two women. So that's how it is. We just thought you thought? Ron asked with a bad look in his eyes. What do you think happened to me? It's Raj. It's him, not us. Howard decisively betrayed his good friend, pointed at Raj, and scolded. Law, I told you, an upright person like Ron is not as dirty as you think. Shame on you. Raj, being blamed by Howard, Raj pouted in grievance. Seeing this, Ron hooked the two men's necks and pulled them into Leonard's bedroom. Okay, let's talk about these things later. We have something else that you need to use your smart little brains to help us think about. What? Opposite Raj and Howard, Gracia was taking off half of her top, revealing a large piece of white skin to apply medicine to Danny. The wound spread from the shoulder to the chest. The two little perverts stared straight at her, and even their voices trembled a little. Raj had just broken up and hadn't smelled meat for a long time. Although Howard had Bernadette, a super sharp-tongued big-breasted girl, and had no worries about food and drink, he couldn't stand eating for a long time. Even if it was abalone and bird's nest, after eating for a long time, you had to change your taste, right? If there's a bionic robot composed of nanorobots, no matter how much damage is done to it, it will recover in a short time, and electromagnetic weapons are useless to it. How can it be destroyed? Bionic robot composed of nanorobots? Howard, this is your field. Raj pushed Howard. Wait, don't be impatient, let me think about it. Howard fell into deep thought under the expectant gaze of everyone. If it is a nanorobot, it is entirely possible to build an upgrade and maintenance module by ourselves to repair the damaged small robot, but this repair should also have its limits. If the instantaneous destructive power exceeds the repair limit, then there should be no problem. The instantaneous destructive power exceeds the repair limit. Ron's eyes lit up. You mean using a nuclear bomb? My small tactical nuclear weapons can finally be used? Oh no. I didn't say that, Howard quickly denied, or use some other method, such as throwing it into a volcano, or by the way, you can throw it into the furnace of a steel plant. Howard suddenly had an idea, slapped his thigh and said, there is a steel plant south of Los Angeles. If you can throw it into the molten iron, no matter what kind of robot it is, it will be useless. Even a solar probe can be destroyed. This is a good idea, but the problem is how to throw the robot in? It's not stupid, Raj retorted. Don't worry about this problem. As long as we want it to go wherever we want it to go, it will go there obediently. Ron looked at Danny meaningfully. Are you ready, Miss Bait? What? You want to use such a cute and sexy girl as bait? I don't agree. Raj stood in front of Danny and retorted loudly. Grace also frowned and shook her head. My mission is to protect Danny. I can't accept taking risks with her life, even if you are a mentor. As soon as Ron's method came out, it was immediately opposed by the two. Although Raj's vote was not very important. Ron's eyes passed Howard and looked directly at Sarah Connor and Danny, who were the last to say a word. Now their attitudes were the key. Don't look at me like that, kid, Sarah glared at Ron unhappily. Ron was confused. Wait, what did you call me? Calling you a brat, what? What's the problem? Sarah said as a matter of course, I'm so much older than you. When I started working, you were still a kid. What's wrong with calling you a brat? Ron didn't know what to say for a moment. Logically, Sarah's husband is his son, so she should call him dad, but in fact, Sarah is much older than him. According to Chinese sayings, there is a generation difference, so he should call her aunt. So the conclusion is that Ron's unfilial son, Jack, had a love affair with an aunt who was a grandmother? Ron felt more and more confused, but it didn't matter. At worst, he would record this grudge first and beat her up after his son was born. You called me a brat, and I beat your husband. This is reasonable. After thinking this through, Ron felt relieved. It's okay. Go on. What I want to say is that when I was her age, there was a Terminator chasing me and trying to stop me from giving birth to my son John, the leader of the resistance. Sarah looked at Danny kindly. Wait? Which resistance are you talking about? Grace looked at Sarah in astonishment. Of course it's the human resistance, the one fighting Skynet? The artificial intelligence that tries to destroy us. Grace shook her head every time Sarah said a new word. She nodded with satisfaction. Very good. It seems that John and I have changed everything. We have changed the future, and saved the lives of 3 billion people. You don't need to thank me. By the way, the man who gave birth to a son with you is my son. You don't need to thank me either. Ron imitated Sarah's tone and said, go on. This time, she was the one who was shocked and couldn't close her mouth. Okay, I say this just to tell you, don't treat Danny like a child. She has her own ideas. Now, kids, tell them, what are your ideas? Encouraged by cool Grandma Sarah, Danny nodded firmly. I am willing to be bait. I want to kill the Terminator with my own hands to avenge my father and brother. Wow, cool. Howard waved his little fist excitedly. This story is much more exciting than a Hollywood blockbuster. Ron, you are not making a movie, are you? What do you think? Ron turned to Danny, took out a pistol and handed it to her. Since you have made up your mind, there is no room for regret. Good luck, female warrior. Raj, give me your mobile phone. All non-combat personnel are requested to evacuate now. I declare that the war has officially begun. In order to avoid the Terminator's tracking, Ron and the others threw away all the electronic equipment on their bodies when they fled. Now, in order for the Terminator to relock the target, he needs to give the Terminator a location. But before that, he needed to set up the battlefield. Gresha, what will the future look like? I mean, what will the future look like without being destroyed? Ron pointed at Grace's arm with some longing while setting up the battlefield. Has technology advanced? Can ordinary people live more freely? He had discovered during the previous battle that many parts of Grace's body were different from those of normal humans. To be precise, she was a cyborg. She had a human appearance and some organs, including the brain, while other parts were replaced by more efficient machines. Grace even had a micro-reactor. All these transformations made her stronger, so strong that even Ron would not be her opponent if she was empty-handed. No, it's no different from now. There are just some new things. In fact, the exploitation of the poor is even more serious. They can't even have full control over their own bodies. This is an example. Grace pointed to the small hole behind her neck. It was a data cable connector. Grace had told him before that it was a port for connecting a brain-computer interface. Okay, then I won't expect anything. By the way, let me ask you another question. Will the artificial intelligence systems of the future be not very good? Grace said curiously. What do you mean? I mean, why do the Terminators always come empty-handed every time they appear? Because they are the most efficient killing machines themselves. No, you don't understand what I mean. Ron shook his head. What I mean is, if he can conjure up a gun, or bring a gun with him, will the result be much better than it is now? If you take into account the shooting assistance calculated precisely by the robot's computer, I don't think a Terminator who can use a heavy machine gun for precise strikes can allow your savior to jump around intact now. Ron pointed to Danny, who was helping to operate the steel boiler below. Who knows? It may be a defect in the computer program itself. I am grateful for this defect. Otherwise, we have no chance of defeating them, Grace said, closing the cover of the machine. We'll do it here, then let's start the action. Ron nodded and shouted to the bottom. Danny, turn on your phone, log into your Facebook account and post something. Yes, Danny responded with a playful military salute. As a Facebook dynamic with location information was sent out, the Terminator, wandering aimlessly on the streets of Los Angeles, suddenly raised his head as if receiving some signal, and suddenly jumped to the side of a speeding car and forced it to stop. Without waiting for the driver to curse, he punched the car window, threw the driver out and sat in the driver's seat. Here it comes. The first wave of sensors arranged by Ron responded, and the detonator button was immediately pressed. Boom. The car speeding outside the factory was blown up into the sky, but this kind of damage was of no concern to the Terminator. He even had time to adjust his posture on the car, and then he pushed hard, leaving 2 clear shoe prints on the hood, and the whole person was ejected towards the factory gate. 2 figures immediately turned out from behind the gate, Sarah Connor and Grace, one on the left and one on the right, each with a Stinger launcher aimed at him. Swoosh, the missile was launched, and it was about to hit. The Terminator, who was already in the air with nowhere to get support, stretched out his arms, and turned into 2 wings that flapped down hard, and his body suddenly rose again, narrowly avoiding it. Okay, I'm beginning to agree with you. This thing doesn't need a gun to be a terrible killing machine, Ron said to the microphone. It's a pity that it met us. What should we do now? Seeing the Terminator getting closer and closer, Grace shouted anxiously. The plan remains unchanged. Don't fight with him. Just get out of the way. Following Ron's order, Grace and the other person who had just fired a rocket immediately threw away the empty launcher and ran to both sides without looking back. The Terminator passed by them at a high speed without even looking at them. After all, no matter how advanced the Terminator is, it is still a robot and always serves the mission. He has only one mission goal, which is to kill Danny. Above him, Danny, who was working on the operating table of the steel plant, was already within reach. The Terminator showed a wicked smile on his face, tapped his toes on the ground, and ejected himself. During the flight, his 2 arms quickly turned into 2 sharp blades, waving them towards Danny. However, at this critical moment, Danny did not show any fear on her face. At the lower left side of the operating table, Ron, who had been lying in ambush for a long time, quickly put the Terminator's figure into the side of his grenade launcher. Go to hell. Bang, the grenade was ejected in an instant. As soon as the fuse touched the Terminator's body, a faint flame was emitted, igniting the explosive charge in the warhead. Boom, the shock wave generated by the explosion blew the Terminator away, and it just fell into a pot of molten steel that had just been boiled next to it. Zizzy, as soon as the Terminator fell into the molten steel, a large number of blue electric sparks began to emerge from his body. As Howard said, the damage caused by the molten steel to him exceeded the upper limit of his own repair in an instant. Grisa, Ron shouted, and without him saying anything more, Grasa operated the boiler according to the plan and poured the Terminator and the molten steel into the forging machine. After several struggles, the Terminator not only did not crawl out of the molten steel, but was wrapped by the increasingly viscous molten steel and gradually solidified into an ingot. How is it? How does it feel to become an ingot? Ron walked to the Terminator proudly. I will come back. The Terminator barely raised his head and said intermittently with a leaking voice. Really? I don't think so. Ron waved his hand upwards. Danny, start forging. Dang dang dang, the huge forging hammer fell, knocking the Terminator and the molten steel into an increasingly rounded shape bit by bit. Chapter 495, Daily Life. What high-tech of the future world. It looks like nothing more than that, Ron said disdainfully, looking at the robot face in the steel ingot that was distorted beyond human form. This is a good idea. I will explain it to the leader when I go back to see if it is worth promoting, Grace said thoughtfully as she looked at Danny. Danny, who had been stared at by her, fell to the ground as if she had lost all her strength since the Terminator could no longer make a sound and died completely. Sarah held her in her arms gently. No matter how strong Danny was, she was just a young girl who had just come of age. Her current reaction was completely in line with the confusion that a young girl should have after having her revenge. What did you use to fight the Terminator in your time? It couldn't be a gun, right? If that's the case, I don't think you have any chance of winning at all, Ron asked curiously. Dark matter rifle, but it should not be made with the current technological level. It will have to wait until Dr. Sheldon makes a decisive breakthrough in the field of dark matter in 2030, Grace replied, stroking her chest. Even the reactor on my body is Dr. Sheldon's masterpiece. It's Sheldon. Ron was surprised, but immediately put away his surprise. If it was Sheldon, it might really work. Although he has not achieved representative achievements in the academic world yet, it does not mean that it will be impossible in the future. In fact, as someone who has watched Sheldon grow up, Ron has more confidence in him than anyone else, even Sheldon himself. Now that your mission is completed, what are you going to do next? Continue to protect Danny. This time, Ron did not feel the strange dizziness of leaving, which surprised him a little, but after the accident, he immediately started to think about Grace. This is a cyborg created by real future technology. Even the Terminator can deal with it at close range. Ron has never had such a fierce close combat master, but unfortunately it did not go as he wished. Grace shook her head. No, I want to go back. The time machine can only let me stay here for 2 days, which is just right so far. Moreover, although I like the peaceful life here, I am needed more over there. Teacher, can I ask you one last favor? I know, it must be Danny, right? Yes, thank you in advance, teacher, no problem, although I am not sure whether the future you are talking about will appear now. After all, I will be prepared in advance this time. Maybe, I will get everything done before everything happens? But I will still arrange for her to learn various combat skills from my most powerful men. Ron looked at Sarah Connor, the last person whose future was uncertain. What about you? What are you going to do in the future? Continue to live in hiding? Grace's idea failed, so Ron turned his target to Sarah. Although this woman looked like other harmless old ladies, Ron, who had just cooperated with her, knew very well how skilled this old lady was in using firearms. Coupled with the good entire reconnaissance skills she had acquired from hiding for many years, it would not be a problem for her to kill an entire CIA branch alone. No, I'm already very old. I plan to go back to my hometown in Texas and buy a farm to live a quiet life. If possible, I'll join a country club and find an honest and handsome old man to live with. Do you have any better suggestions? Sarah said unhappily. Of course. How about you stay in Los Angeles? Ron rolled his eyes and immediately had an idea. I don't have a country club, but I have a retirement club. The old men there are all talented people, speak well, and most importantly, they are all very handsome. There are all kinds of skin colors you want. In order to recruit Sarah, Ron sold his subordinates without hesitation. Anyway, there are still several singles in the senior club, so Ron is doing a good deed. Really, of course it's true. If you don't believe me, I'll show you the photo. Ron showed Sarah the group photo taken at the club. And my club has all kinds of weapons. As long as you want, you can play however you want. In addition, you can get a generous salary every month, then I'll give it a try. Let me make it clear that if the club is not as good as you say, I will leave at any time, of course, but I believe you will never do that. Ron smiled confidently. Ron, you are finally back. How about your two big beauties and super mature women? Do you want Penny and I to stay there tonight and give you the good place? Seeing Ron go home, Leonard teased in a very strange tone. He had just learned about Ron's new romantic affair from Raj and Howard. Raj and Howard whispered to each other and laughed strangely. After dealing with Sarah and Danny, Ron did not go home directly, but played outside for 3 days before returning. This made the other friends have some unfriendly associations. But Ron remained calm. Thank you, Leonard, I haven't slept in my own apartment in a long time. Every day when I wake up, the first thing I think about is where am I? Max's house? The Gallagher's house? Tosie's house? Or some new girl's house whose name I can't remember. Oh, by the way, I was at Claire's house last night. Ron pretended to be enlightened, and the other friends who were about to laugh at Ron were jealous. I'm so angry. He's enjoying the blessing of having so many wives. We're all men, but I've only had one girlfriend, Bernadette, and he's had so many, and every one of them is so beautiful. Leonard and the other two were biting lemons indignantly, while Sheldon, who had no interest in gossip at all, turned around in surprise. What? You and Claire also had sex? She's our cousin. If Mom knew, she would definitely curse you to hell. No, I'm not talking about that Claire, but this Claire. Ron showed them a photo. Waiter Claire, thanks to Raj, you left her my number. In the photo, a woman with white hair and an angelic face was the waitress Raj had hooked up with when they were discussing new batteries in the bar. What? My angel Claire, Raj screamed in pain. It seems that you took my phone after drinking too much in the bar that day. After getting the number, you used my phone to call her and told her it was your number. Raj's face was pale. He worked hard to strike up a conversation, but he didn't expect that he would end up making things difficult for Ron. It was obviously he who went there first. However, even though Raj had entered autism mode, Ron did not forget to give him another stab at the one who was laughing the most just now. But, Raj, you don't have to feel too bad. She called me to ask for my number. As a result, because of your mistake, we just saved an intermediate link. Thank you, Raj. Ron patted Raj's shoulder sincerely, and Raj, if reality is a comic book, Raj should be petrified at this moment, and then shattered into powder on the ground. And blown away by the wind, there's nothing left. Why are so many of you here tonight? What's going on? Of course, Sheldon finally got up from the computer desk. You have to take me to the airport tomorrow. Mom is coming tomorrow. Tomorrow? I remember she was here not long ago. Why is she here this time? Because of my wedding. Leonard came over and grabbed Ron's shoulders excitedly. Can you believe it? I'm getting married tomorrow. Wait. Aren't you and Penny already married? Ron was a little surprised. Did you and Penny go through a marriage change, divorce, and then find new love and get married in the few days I was away? God, this is too fast. Who are you going to marry this time? Penny. Penny again. Leonard, don't you think it's a bit boring to marry the same person twice? Ron hooked his arm around Leonard's neck and said earnestly, if you really can't find a new girlfriend, I can take you to a few bars, the kind that are specially opened next to universities and are full of nerds. I think there will be girls who like you because of your talent. It's impossible. We've already tried the bars near the university. It's impossible, Howard said bitterly, and Raj nodded in agreement. No, you misunderstood, Ron. Penny and I haven't broken up, Leonard said helplessly. It's all because of my mother. Penny wanted to please my mother. She was probably a little unhappy because we didn't inform her before we got married, so Penny suggested that we hold another wedding, a formal wedding. I now formally invite you, Ron. Are you willing to witness our wedding again, although it's a bit frivolous? Yes, I will definitely go. Ron yawned and prepared to go back to his room to sleep. Although he spent most of his time in bed during these days outside, he really didn't sleep much. The next day at noon, Ron picked up Mary from the airport on time. When they returned to the apartment, Leonard's mother Beverly had been waiting on the sofa for a long time. The person Beverly was waiting for should be Sheldon. Because of her personality and other reasons, Beverly treated Sheldon better than her own son Leonard. But even so, when Beverly saw Mary next to Ron, his face suddenly fell. The two of them were face to face but didn't say a word. The feeling of eating was so vague that no one dared to say anything. The atmosphere suddenly dropped to freezing point. Fortunately, Penny took the initiative to play the role of livening up the atmosphere. She chatted with the two mothers in a casual manner until Leonard brought his father in. The situation changed. We are here. Leonard pushed open the door and took the initiative to introduce his father. This is my roommate, Sheldon. That's Ron. He lives opposite with Penny. Over there's their mother Mary, and finally my mother Beverly. I think I don't need to introduce them anymore, right? Of course. Hello, my hateful ex-wife. Leonard's father took the initiative to provoke his mother. By the way, Leonard's parents have been divorced for a long time. The apparent reason is that Leonard's father cheated on the restaurant waiter. It sounds like all the faults are on this man. But in fact, when Leonard was on the phone with his father, Ron had heard a little that due to Beverly's excessive dominance, the couple had not been intimate for nearly 20 years. This intimacy does not only refer to that level of intimacy. In fact, this poor old man has never heard a word of praise from his wife. All the communication is like cold diplomatic rhetoric, simple and efficient but inhumane. Ron felt a little sympathetic to this old man. You too, wrinkled old bastard, Beverly fought back unyieldingly, and the atmosphere became increasingly tense. Okay, stop arguing. Penny and I are having another wedding just for you. Please, don't ruin it, okay? Leonard said helplessly. Yes, today is a special day. I think we may put aside our prejudices for the time being. Are you all hungry? How about eating something first? Ron took the opportunity to lead the topic to eating. Leonard gave him a grateful look. Being caught between divorced parents, no one was more uncomfortable than him. Okay, let's go eat first. Okay, Sheldon, send a message to Amy and ask her to meet at the restaurant directly. Leonard, I know. I'll send the location to Howard. He will come with Raj and Bernadette, the Cooper family, Leonard's family, plus Penny. A total of 7 people went to the restaurant together in 2 cars. Because Leonard's parents were not getting along, the two of them had to split up and make one in each car. Ron took the initiative to invite Leonard's father to sit in his car, but after a while, he began to regret it. For some reason, Mary and Leonard's father got along surprisingly well. Although one of them was an anthropologist and the other was a devout believer, they had surprisingly consistent views on Leonard's mother. Their topics ranged from the Great Flood to the Bible, and then from the meaning of religion to mankind to how annoying Beverly was. For some reason, watching them talk happily, Ron always felt that his father, George Sr., had a little green on his head. Sheldon, do you think your mother is a little abnormal today? Ron asked Sheldon in a low voice. Of course, Sheldon nodded, and began to defend Beverly. They shouldn't say that about Beverly. Beverly is the greatest neuropsychologist of modern times, And Leonard's father is just a humanist who shows off his words. He can hardly be called a scientist. As long as one has a good memory and can memorize what others have written in books, anyone can be a humanist. That's not what I'm talking about, Ron muttered softly. At this moment, Mary laughed at a joke made by Leonard's father. I mean, don't you think that Mom is a little too close to him? Chapter 496 Old George and Little George. In the old house in Texas, George Sr. and George Jr. were lying comfortably on the recliners, enjoying this rare quiet time. There were already more than 20 empty wine bottles beside them. Mary's evaluation of the father and son might be a little exaggerated, but there was one thing she said that was absolutely correct. If left alone, these two together could definitely support a brewery. Mary had only been away for a day, and the two hadn't drunk a sip of water. Almost all the water they needed for their bodies came from Lone Star beer. Veronica looked at the two men, one big and one small, outside and felt helpless. The mother-in-law had just left, and they were like this. How were they going to live in the future? Burp. I haven't had such a good drink in a long time. George Sr. burped comfortably, exhaled a long breath of alcohol, and said with satisfaction. Yes, normally when Mom is at home, she would never allow us to drink like this, so we must drink as much as we can while she's at the wedding of Sheldon's nerdy friend. Little George raised his glass generously and clinked it with his father, then drank it all in one gulp. It would be nice if Ron was here, then the three of us could drink together. Forget it, that little traitor, old George said disdainfully. Who do you think reported us to Mary for drinking several times before? Wasn't it Sheldon? Little George said blankly. How could Sheldon know? We always wait until he goes to school or the library before we drink together. Missy only needs the money to be in place and she's very tight-lipped, so it must be Ron who reported it. Old George got angry when he talked about this, because he was caught drinking secretly and was punished by Mary many times, and even his pocket money was deducted several times because of his unconscious behavior. Old George thought about resisting, but as long as Mary shouted George, in a serious tone, he would lose all his thoughts of resistance. Little George still didn't believe it. No way? But Ron drank with us. Old George rolled his eyes. He had 4 children in total, 3 sons and 1 daughter, 3 of whom were geniuses in various senses. But why was his eldest son so stupid? Even so, there were still many people who said that he was the most like him. How could it be possible? If he had to choose one of his sons who was the most like him, old George felt that this person must be Ron. He was as handsome and agile as he was when he was young. The only regret was that he didn't inherit his mantle and become a great football player or football coach. Yes, it was him. Once, I saw him tell Mary about it. Do you know what he said when Mary smelled the alcohol on him and asked him if he was drinking too? What did he say? He said that he wanted to get into my inner circle, this rebellious son. Every time I see him get a bonus from Mary, I feel so angry. It must be deducted from my pocket money. Thinking of his increasingly thin wallet, old George felt that his heart was bleeding. So he is this kind of person, Ron. I trusted him so much before. George Jr. took the opportunity to get angry and took a sip of the last bottle of beer before George Sr. That's the last bottle of beer, kid. George Sr. glared at his son. It's okay, I'll bring you another box when I come tomorrow. Mom won't be back for a while anyway. Little George drank the beer in one gulp and burped comfortably. By the way, is it okay if you don't have to call Mom? There's no need at all. Between us, she's always the one who calls me. After all, she was the one who pursued me back then. Back then, Mom was a famous beauty. If you hadn't been young and ignorant and been tricked away by you with a Harley motorcycle, you wouldn't have had a chance at all. Little George ruthlessly exposed his father's clumsy lies. I think it's better for you to call, otherwise, when Mom comes back, you'll have to sleep in the living room or come to our house. Old George blushed. Hey, you're my son, what does it matter if I sleep at your house for a few days? Of course it matters. I'm still young and Veronica is so beautiful. We still have a rich nightlife to lead, usually not limited to the bedroom. You know, little George winked at his father. Don't tell me about this, kid. Finally, under the teasing gaze of his eldest son, George Sr. called his wife. Hey, Mary, how is your side? It's nice here. You really should come and see it. Especially you can meet some very knowledgeable new friends, such as Alfred, Mary said happily. Thank you, Mom. I really can't bear your evaluation like this. George Sr. heard the voice of a strange old man from the phone, and he was startled and stood up from the recliner. George Jr. looked at his father in surprise. Since George Sr. stopped the interactive game of chasing father and son with Ron, this was the first time he saw his father so agile. No, I'm not flattering you at all. You are really a very knowledgeable person, just like your son Leonard. By the way, what is the interesting thing you just mentioned? That is a relatively interesting new discovery recently, that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens often mate with each other. Ha ha ha, did you hear that? George, now I finally understand why I married you. Mary's sweet laughter came from the receiver, but old George's expression was as if struck by lightning. If he had to add a background music at this time, it must be a cut plumb by classmate Yuan Hua. Okay, George, anyway, everything is safe here, I won't talk to you anymore. Alfred is about to show me his collection of ancient religious instruments, can you believe it? In ancient times, people were already inspired by God. Beep beep, old George had just said goodnight when the phone was hung up. How is it? When did Mom say she'll be back? If she stays in Los Angeles for one more day, I can buy another case of beer tomorrow and we can have a good drink. Little George was halfway through his words when he noticed that his father's face looked a little off. He was shocked and hurried to the house. What? Is Mom coming back now? Damn it. We haven't had time to clean up the battlefield yet. It's too late. Dad, dig a hole first and we'll bury the bottles in the yard. I'll tell Veronica not to tell Mom. No, she's not back. Huh? You scared me. Little George breathed a sigh of relief and turned around. What's going on? Old George said with a grim expression. There's a man in your mother's room now. Chapter 497 Misunderstanding. Ron, is your mother living alone in the hotel now? After hanging up the phone with Mary, George was worried and called Ron immediately. Of course, who else could she be with? Ron said as a matter of course. Before George could breathe a sigh of relief, he immediately added, however, by coincidence, she happened to live in the same hotel as Leonard's father. What was even more terrifying was Sheldon's addition. Yes, I also saw my mother leave with Leonard's father. They also said they were going to drink together in the hotel. George's heart tightened, and he felt that his marriage was in great crisis. Don't listen to Sheldon's nonsense. They live in the same hotel and leave together. Of course, it is normal. Even drinking a little wine before bed to help sleep is normal. Don't worry, we will call and ask what's going on there later. After sending George away, Ron glared at Sheldon unhappily. Please, don't make trouble at this time. Okay, how did I make trouble? I just called my mother several times but she didn't answer. I didn't tell her anything, Sheldon said unconvinced. Leonard threw his phone aside dejectedly. I didn't get a reply to the message I sent to my dad. Penny gave a strange smile, because they all turned off their phones. I don't like this at all. Ron glared at Penny. Accompany you with Ron's murderous eyes, and quickly sit up straight. Sheldon was a little nervous. Leonard, do you think it's possible for us to become brothers? Sheldon, your brother is still sitting here. Ron tapped Sheldon on the head. You may be able to be as close as brothers with Leonard, but remember that your real brothers will always be me and George. I hope you are right, because it is really weird for an adult man like me to live with my brother and his brother's wife. No, even if you are not brothers, it is also weird for an adult man to live with her best friend and his best friend's wife. I strongly suggest that you move in with Amy as soon as possible. Ron sat in the middle, patted Sheldon and Leonard on the shoulders, motioning them to relax. Don't worry, everything will be fine. I don't know Leonard's father, but I know my own mother very well, and her marriage is very stable. However, the reality did not match expectations. Leonard may have calmed down a little, but Sheldon was still worried about the situation over there. He suddenly said, don't you think Leonard's father is doing unspeakable things to our mother? No. Sheldon continued to ask, are you saying that because this matter is unspeakable? Of course not. Ron was helpless with his brother who had a high IQ but a negative EQ. Think about how many times Mom and Dad have had conflicts before. The crisis they have encountered in their marriage is much bigger than this time, but they are still together now, precisely because they love each other. I think this is all a misunderstanding. Well, it seems that you need some facts to prove it. Ron looked at the two people who were still worried, and had no choice but to take out his mobile phone and call out, but he did not call his mother, but dialed an unfamiliar number. If an ordinary person dialed this number, a public phone in some corner of the streets of Los Angeles would ring, but if Ron dialed it, an electronic synthesized female voice came from the receiver immediately. What can I do for you, sir? You should know that it is not my working hours now. It is very rude to disturb a lady at this time. Anyway, you are not asleep at this time, right? Give me all the call records of Ms. Mary, that is, my mother tonight. How long does it take? Right away. Is there anything else? As soon as the voice on the other side fell, Ron received the message immediately, and the efficiency was incredible. The woman on the other end of the phone was a childhood friend of Chris, Ron's current accountant. Like him, she was a poor genius who had reached a level of hacking skills that was difficult for ordinary people to understand. When Chris was working alone, she had been responsible for Chris's business information and intelligence analysis. Now that Chris has joined Ron, she was persuaded to start working for Ron after being idle for a while. No more, thank you. What's up? Ron, is your mother's phone turned off? When Sheldon heard the phone ring, he immediately asked with concern. Of course not. Ron showed a message to the two of them. In fact, your dad called you at the same time you were talking to your mom. I've said it before, it was a misunderstanding. Then what's the matter with my dad not replying to the message? Maybe you should be concerned about your father's financial situation. Leonard, I don't understand. Have you ever thought about a possibility? That is, your dad's phone is in arrears, so he can't send messages. Ron dialed the screen of his mobile phone, and the other party was very considerate and forwarded the messages on Leonard's father's mobile phone. One of them was his bankruptcy statement. Your father is bankrupt. I think that should be the reason for the divorce. But, is it possible? Leonard was about to make another guess, but was interrupted by Ron immediately. This matter ends here, brothers. There is no ambiguity, and no family will be broken because of this. Let's not ask about this tomorrow, okay? Especially you, Sheldon. I think the main reason they act so close is because your mother, Leonard, they both hate Beverly, so they reached a temporary alliance. Enjoy your happy moment tomorrow, my friend. No words were spoken all night. The next day, guests gathered early on the lawn outside the Hilton Hotel to attend Leonard and Penny's formal wedding ceremony. This time, they finally chose a relatively normal way and did not do another live broadcast. The music started, and Penny and her father walked into the ceremony together. I don't understand why people always cry at weddings, Sheldon asked Penny, who was in tears. Of course, they are practicing for their married life. After marriage, there will be many days of crying. Oh. Mom, why did you hit me? Ron was just halfway through complaining when he was suddenly slapped on the head by Mary. Don't say such nonsense to Sheldon. I can't hold your child, so can't I hold Sheldon's child? Mary scolded angrily. Seeing Sheldon's thoughtful look, Mary quickly made up for it. Don't believe your brother's words. Marriage is a very beautiful thing. Just look at me and your father and you will know. Really, it would have been better if Mary didn't say it. After saying it, Sheldon fell into deep doubt. Chapter 498, New Business of the Small Cake Shop. A week after Leonard's wedding, Ron returned to his peaceful life. Selling cakes. Cakes? Please, buy a cake. Caroline leaned half of her body out of the window like a little match girl, and shouted desperately. Across the street, the green trash can swayed for a long time before finally stopping. Two heads popped out of the trash can. What's wrong with Caroline this time? Aren't you working in the high-end dessert shop again? Why does she still look so short of money? Who asked Caroline to drive her own car to take a business course? Not only did she pay $5,000 for the course, but she also crashed her car when she drove to class. But thanks to her, I finally know how much it costs to repair a Maserati. A top student who graduated from Wharton Business School paid $5,000 to attend a business course from a self-proclaimed successful person. Just for this reason, Ron felt that Caroline's studies were in vain. You know, Caroline's father, Mr. Channing, is a master of success studies, but Caroline still has to find others to learn. This is like playing hide and seek in your own home and getting lost. It's embarrassing. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. Although Toretto's repair shop can repair anything, Caroline attaches great importance to this car and will never allow any non-original parts to be installed on the car, even if the new part has a better performance improvement effect. In fact, as early as when Caroline decided to keep the car, Ron had proposed modifications to him. You know, not everyone can have the treatment of a master like Toretto to personally perform modifications, but Caroline still refused because she wanted to maintain the original appearance of the car. And perhaps it is precisely because of this kind of women's mentality that ordinary parts of sports cars like Maserati are sold at the same price as ordinary cars, but all parts related to the appearance are sold at sky-high prices. Maybe you can comfort her, Max shouted to the shop opposite. Caroline, I've had enough. Do you want to come over and relax? Hey. My bank card balance is 0 now. How can I be like you? Without any nervousness, Caroline saw passers-by passing by and continued to shout anxiously, "Cupcakes! Come and buy a cupcake," but she continued to be ridiculed by Max. "You look more desperate than Justin Bieber with his balls pinched in the CK advertisement. Why don't you think about why I am so desperate?" Caroline was furious. "We still owe the bank a loan. The amount of the loan will increase, and then we will close down. Cupcakes, selling cupcakes." Hearing the current bleak financial situation, even a thick-skinned man like Max couldn't help but put on his clothes in a hurry and prepare to go out to help. Ron could only follow him out helplessly. "Actually, you don't have to be so nervous. In the worst-case scenario, you still have me, right?" "Yes, we have Ron. He will definitely help us, right?" Max stroked Ron's chest and threw him a seductive look. "Max, we can't always rely on Ron. We have to be self-reliant." After scolding Max, Caroline smiled apologetically at Ron. "Thank you for your kindness, Ron. You have helped us so much. I really don't want to spend your money anymore, otherwise it will make me feel that I am no different from those women who rely on their bodies for money." No, you are wrong. I didn't say to continue to give you money, but I brought you some good orders. As for whether you can grasp them, it depends on you." "Orders?" Max's eyes lit up. "Then why didn't you say it just now?" "It's not my fault. You are so beautiful." Ron patted Max on the butt lightly and said seriously, "If you do well this time, maybe you can say goodbye to words like poverty and bankruptcy in the future." "Really? How big is this order?" Caroline's breathing quickened when she spoke. "Is this order big enough for the Tesla factory in Los Angeles?" Tesla's Los Angeles factory is one of Tesla's largest factories in the United States. The entire factory has more than 3,000 employees. The afternoon tea snacks needed by so many people are also astronomical. Of course, Musk can't replace all the snacks for his employees with small cakes. This is unrealistic, but it is completely no problem to replace some of them. This is also one of the additional terms in the battery cooperation agreement that Ron and Musk have agreed on. That's right, Ron and Musk have already reached a cooperation agreement. Musk only obtained the right to use the patent, but paid $100 million plus 5% of Tesla's shares. It was more than half less than the price Ron offered at the beginning, but there was no way. The reason for the bargaining given by Musk was also very realistic, forcing Ron to reconsider and give up the idea of starting his own electric car company. You need to know what your battery technology means for the current energy structure. In the office, Musk took a deep puff of his cigar and said in a serious tone, "This means that we have to go to war with almost all car companies, and also with traditional energy companies, including even supergiants such as Royal Dutch Shell, ExxonMobil, Standard Oil, and BP, because they all understand that this will be something that changes the times. Therefore, they will not hesitate to suppress us in any way, including but not limited to, lobbying the White House to formulate new battery standards in the name of safety, limiting our performance to a level that does not threaten them, spreading rumors in the media to discredit new energy, and directly maliciously creating several battery spontaneous combustion accidents. Even directly dispatched assassins to threaten the personal safety of me and my family." So, what do you plan to choose? Continue to open a new electric car company and compete with me while dealing with these giants, or sell the patent usage rights, take the money and leave, and hand over those big guys to me, and of course, give me the opportunity to make a fortune? The energy contained in these capital giants combined can even directly wipe out any small country on the earth. Although Ron is very strong, he is not confident enough to think that he can compete with these capital giants, so he chose the second one. But Musk is different. Behind him is the capital of the CIA, the capital of the aerospace industry, the capital of the information industry, and the most daunting capital force in the United States, the military-industrial complex group. He has accumulated enough capital to compete with the oil and energy interest groups. Although the strength of the IRS behind Ron is not too bad, it is better to be a spectator in this kind of fight between gods. That's great, Max, we are really going to make a fortune this time. Caroline excitedly pulled Max's hand and jumped up and down. Max shook it off several times with a look of disgust. But he couldn't get rid of it, so he could only let him continue to pull it. Chanel, Hermes, Balenciaga, Gucci, I'm finally back. Caroline read out a long list of big brands that she used to take for granted but are now out of reach, just like reading the menu. She finally remembered who is responsible for all this and jumped up to give Ron a big kiss on the face. Thank you, Ron. Thank you so much. Don't be too quick to thank me. Will this thing be successful? It mainly depends on you and Max. I advise you not to be too happy too early, although it was actually a done deal. Ron didn't want Caroline to miss this big order because she was too proud and ignored the quality issues. Someone at the Tesla factory has eaten your cakes and they also think they are very good, so they agreed to this proposal. Therefore, the key to making this order a success is to continue to maintain your original taste and never reduce the quality in order to rush the time. Got it? Caroline buried her head in Ron's arms and murmured with Max in her other hand, if it weren't for you and Max, I might have been homeless on the streets and nothing, or I would have given up my self-esteem and sold my body for money like a cheap streetwalker. I don't know how to thank you. I don't want your thanks. I just want you to move out of my apartment as soon as possible, or take me to live in your big villa with a private swimming pool, Max said hypocritically. Ron grabbed the buttocks of the two beautiful girls hard, and laughed in the exclamations of the two girls. You know how to thank me. After a sleepless night, Ron fought until dawn and fell asleep tiredly, then slept until noon, and dragged his drowsy body back to the office in the afternoon. The members of the Special Operations Team have long been accustomed to their boss's daily lateness and early departure. In fact, they themselves often do so. Ron is lax about this. Except for Andy's occasional words, he is just like a sheep most of the time. In Ron's own words, as long as the work is completed, it doesn't matter if they don't come to punch in. I want people who can really help me work, not salary thieves who just wander around in front of me every day. Of course, there is an exception among these members, that is Chris, who has obsessive-compulsive disorder. No matter what the situation, he insists on going to get off work on time every day, as accurate as a clock. You are finally here. I need to report something to you, boss. Ron had just sat down at the desk and had not had time to warm up the stool when Andy walked in with a document. I've said it before, you don't need to ask me for anything you can decide, just explain what you did in the daily report. Don't worry, I will definitely read it, and if I find anything inappropriate, I will stop it immediately. Ron half supported his head with his arms. Now he just wanted to send Andy away quickly and sleep for a while until the end of the day. He can still fight tonight. But unfortunately, Andy didn't give her this opportunity. I advise you to take a look, otherwise, you won't even know how the money is gone. What? My money is gone? Who did it? So bold? Don't you know that Los Angeles is my territory? Hearing that the matter was related to money, Ron suddenly became energetic. You may remember that one of the security companies we invested in was mainly engaged in the business of escorting banknotes for banks. Andy opened the file, pointed to the information on it and said, but during this period, the company's armored car was robbed one after another, and no one in the underworld paid us the crime tax for the amount of the robbery. The company's losses, plus the taxes we didn't receive, we lost twice in total. After getting along with Ron for a long time, Andy also learned his special way of accounting. I think you should find a way to solve this problem. Ron nodded. You make sense. Otherwise, if we continue to lose money at this rate, we won't be able to pay our salaries in 300 years. Andy rolled his eyes secretly. Let alone 300 years, it would be a problem whether he would still be alive in 3 years. Who would care about the salary at that time? But he did not complain about this issue. It was a good sign that his boss was actively doing things. So, how do you plan to deal with it? In general, in robbery cases, even if it is multiple crimes committed by the same gang, there will be slight differences in the actions due to various objective reasons, such as traffic and weather. But look at these cases. Ron lined up the case materials in a row and placed them horizontally in front of Andy. Not only did they shorten the time to within 2 minutes each time, the process and even the content of the messages to the escorts were exactly the same. However, what surprised me most was the precise grasp of the time of the robbery. If there was no insider, it would be impossible to achieve this level. Then what do you plan to do? Arthur, Hank, come here. Ron did not answer Andy directly, but called his two men loudly. What's the matter, boss? Take a look at these. Ron pointed to the information on the table. Maybe we haven't taken action for too long. Someone in Los Angeles is ready to make a move and is beginning to ignore our IRS. I need you to take some action. Tell me your plan. Hank was a policeman and had a natural inertia in handling cases. I think we can start with a circulation of banknotes and look for these banknotes in the market. Once the numbers of these banknotes are found, trace the source immediately. No, it's too slow, and this money may not be spent in Los Angeles, or even in the United States. The US dollar is the world currency. Not to mention far away, Even the drug dealers in South America prefer to use US dollars for cash transactions. From this perspective, it is impossible to check. Ron shook his head. Arthur, what do you think? Chapter 499, Human Anger. I think, first of all, we should clean up the underworld. It doesn't matter whether those scum are involved in this or not, and it doesn't matter whether they know about it or not. The important thing is to let them know the consequences of angering us, Arthur said coldly. Andy didn't know much about the ins and outs of this, and said reluctantly, do we really have to do this? Is it too much? Too much? Of course not. Who do you think they are? Arthur sneered. They are not your friendly neighbors living next door, nor are they the white-collar elites you meet in the office building. They are criminals themselves, Andy. Robbery, murder, human trafficking, drug trafficking, these people do all kinds of evil. For these people, only more ruthless methods can make them truly convinced. Otherwise, why do you think they pay taxes to us? Is it because of respecting the elderly and loving the young? As he said, Arthur glanced at Hank with disdain. Hank was furious, but he couldn't do anything about him. To be honest, when Hank and Arthur joined Ron, they had already started to have conflicts. Before they joined, one was a policeman and the other was a killer. Their attributes were naturally conflicting, and with a huge difference in their styles, they basically never liked each other. In fact, as long as it was not a healthy competition that undermined each other, Ron would choose to turn a blind eye, because this was a very good thing for the internal atmosphere of a team. This was also something he learned from a book called If You Can't Lead a Team, You Can Only Work Until You Die. That's right, I think we should do it according to Arthur's idea, and leave this matter to you, but I want to say more than just this. Ron knocked on the information on the table. Pay attention to the location and timing of their robbery. If there is no internal response from them in this security company, it is impossible. I still need you to help me solve this problem. The two read the information again, and this time they also found the abnormalities that Ron just mentioned. I think we can start by checking the address books of all the insiders in the company. I don't mean checking the communication information on the mobile phone, but checking the communication records of all communication companies. Screening out valuable information one by one, I think we will definitely gain something. Arthur, who had just won a victory over Hank, was the first to speak and continued to speak proudly, but he didn't expect that this time, his idea did not get the support of Ron. This plan is listed as an alternative. It's a good method, but it's too slow. There are more than 20 people in the security company and the bank who know the delivery time en route. It will take at least several months to screen all their communication information. By that time, the people who robbed my money will have run away to some Southeast Asian island to enjoy their lives. I can't wait that long. I have an idea. How about we send an undercover agent into the security company? Hank stared at Arthur for a long time, his eyes rolled, and a plan came to mind. According to the information, this security company has had at least 2 escort missions every day in the past 2 weeks, and based on the frequency of the cases that have occurred, they carry out at least 3 robberies a week. It seems that they want to take advantage of the recent time to save more money and prepare to run away, so if we can arrange an undercover agent right now, you can be sure that he has a high probability of encountering the robber's actions. Hank said halfway, and thought again, no, it shouldn't be 1, but 2. And they can't be deliberately arranged by someone, because this will alert the mole. The best way is to let these 2 people pass the security company's interview and join in. In order not to attract attention, the interview results should not be too conspicuous. This method sounds much more reliable than the previous one. Ron looked at Andy. He has always been in charge of the investment company's affairs. Andy knows the specific situation better than anyone else. What are the recruitment standards for the security of this company? A 20-meter pistol target, 60 rings or more in 10 shots, and there are also some physical tests. I think this is no problem for everyone, except my old bones. Andy answered almost without thinking, and Ron nodded with satisfaction. Give them 2 business cards, and you go directly to the interview according to the address. Don't report anyone's name, just say you saw it on the internet. Come on, I'm optimistic about you. Fortis Security Company. Hank took the business card, glanced at the name casually, and said with some surprise, Boss, I may not be able to do this job. This guy named Bullet is my former colleague. I didn't know that he has started to work as a security guard now. Well, if you can't go, then. Ron looked around. Mrs. Smith was pregnant, so the couple took maternity leave together. Deckard, Shawno and Shaw were sent by Ron to Europe to investigate the clues of 18 before. Chris gave people a very serious and powerful feeling at first glance. He was not suitable to be an undercover agent at all. Giselle was on vacation in Hawaii. And the old guys in the senior club were all older than the age requirement of the security company, so after looking around, Ron was embarrassed to find that he had no one available for a while. Okay, I'll go with you this time. Remember, we pretend we don't know each other, Ron sighed helplessly. Andy, help us arrange 2 identities. The next morning, Ron and Arthur appeared at the door of Futong Security Company with backache. Yesterday afternoon, Andy had already used 2 fake identities to help them make an appointment for an interview. After the screening of the security company's personnel, the 2 resumes that perfectly met their needs naturally passed the review easily. The social security numbers of these 2 fake identities, even if Finch checked, would not find a single flaw, because they are all real social security information. Each official intelligence agency will have several special virtual identity information for their undercover use. Although Ron's special operations team has a small number of people, it is large enough to allow everyone to be assigned a virtual identity. I'm already regretting it now. I haven't been to work normally for a long time. I should have let Chris come earlier, Ron stretched and complained. Just based on Chris's poker face, anyone would think he has a problem. Didn't you say not to be too conspicuous, boss? Arthur comforted. No, I just thought that we don't need to keep both identities so low-key. We can just have a high-profile one to attract attention. And then the low-profile one will be responsible for the investigation. So, I'll be the high-profile one, understand? No problem, boss. Don't call me boss from now on. Hush, someone's coming. Ron made a silent gesture, and the 2 continued to pretend to be strangers. After a while, a fat man with glasses came in. Welcome, I'm your interviewer. Please allow me to give you a brief self-introduction. The fat man shook hands with the 2 of them very kindly. Fortis Security Company specializes in providing armed security services for cash transport vehicles in Los Angeles. Our customers include large retail department stores, vaults, banks, casinos and marijuana pharmacies. Thanks to President Frank, marijuana has been legalized, and the money we transport from marijuana pharmacies is often much more than that from banks. I'm tired of hearing all this. Almost every security company's business is this, but I'm more concerned about what kind of job I'm going to do, Ron said with a deliberately impatient look, which was exactly what he had just agreed with Arthur. I was just about to say this. We have 12 money transporters, each with 3 personnel, a driver, a liaison, and a guard. Each vehicle carries at least $15 million a day, so it will attract unwanted attention. The fat man pushed his glasses. I don't want to lie to you. This job is dangerous, so you will offer a salary that matches the risk, right? That's exactly what I need. Ron's eyes glowed with a money grubbery. Of course, our salary is always the highest in the industry. The fat man picked up 2 resumes on the table and asked hesitantly, Are you Mace? No, I'm Arthur Morgan, a quick shooter from Texas. Ron gave out the pseudonym on his profile, which was the name of the gunman that old Jack, who taught him how to shoot, admired the most. Arthur Morgan, right. The fat man flips open the second resume. Your background check is clean, and your resume at Blackwater is also very impressive. That company is not bad, but the nature of our job is a little different. We don't need you to take the initiative to kill people. We just need you to keep an eye on the escorted money. This should not be difficult for you. The fat man walked up to Arthur. So you are Mace, right? Yes. Arthur's answer was concise and to the point. Okay, your information seems to be alright, but I want to let you know first. Not long ago, we just lost several guards. They died in the line of duty, and a civilian also died. It's a tragedy, the fat man sighed and said. Just as he finished speaking, a tall and strong man walked into the office and patted the fat man on the shoulder. Okay, thank you, now leave it to me. You are Arthur and Mace, right? Then from now on, I will call you Y&M. You can also call me Bullet. The new man shook hands with him and introduced himself. Are you ready to start the test? It's not difficult, just running, shooting and so on. As long as you reach the passing line of 60 points, you can get the job. Can we start? Ron's heart sank. This person should be Hank's former colleague. Of course, he is also one of his suspects. So far, including the fat man just now, he has met 2 people who have access to the escort schedule. Of course, we can start any time. I can't wait. Ron glanced at Arthur casually, and the other party immediately understood what he meant from his eyes and nodded imperceptibly. Bullet took them both to the training ground. There are only 3 tests for armed security personnel. The first one is obstacle running, which mainly tests basic physical qualities. They need to run on a 500-meter track full of various obstacles. This venue is exactly the same as the one used in the military games. The world's fastest record is 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Ron used 80% of his strength and ran in 2 minutes and 20 seconds, breaking the fastest record of the entire company, which caused the onlookers to exclaim and look at Ron with admiration. In this kind of job where you may lose your life at any time, who doesn't want a very strong colleague? Arthur suppressed his strength and ran a time of 3 minutes and 22 seconds. It can't be said to be very fast, but it is definitely passing. The second item was vehicle driving, which was even easier for Ron. His driving skills came from Toretto, a man who could drive a car so fast that even Newton's coffin could not hold it down. After a series of operations, he drove an ordinary escort vehicle with a bit of F1 feeling. What a man who loves to show off, Arthur secretly curled his lips. In this test, he deliberately turned a little late twice, causing the car to scrape the road sign. According to the test standards, it was another passing score. Then it was the last and most critical test, shooting. Because they heard that a very awesome new colleague had come to the company, almost all the security personnel in the company gathered at the shooting range to watch them take the test. Arthur secretly shook his head at Ron, meaning that you are already conspicuous enough, you'd better be more restrained this time. Ron nodded. There are 20 targets, 10 shots, you only need to hit 60 rings to pass. This requirement should not be difficult for you, right? You look like a Superman. I guess you were also a famous guy in your previous company, right? Of course. Ron raised his head proudly. Those bad boys made a bet. I bet that you would have more than 90 rings. Don't let me down. Bullet patted Ron on the shoulder and handed him a pistol. Ron took the gun and checked the pistol first. This is a 5th-generation Glock 17 pistol. It uses a polymer slide to make it lighter. Ron raised his hand and aimed at the target. Bang, bang, bang. Almost without hesitation, he emptied all 10 bullets in the gun in one go. However, this result. Bullet frowned. Ron's 10 shots added up to 79 rings. Although this result has passed, it can only be said to be somewhat mediocre compared to Ron's amazing performance just now. Lost. I thought he would shoot more accurately, that's right. He was just like Superman just now. I didn't expect his shooting skills to be so different, not much different. This result is better than yours, but the security guards around made annoyed voices. Obviously, they all bet that Ron would have a good result. It doesn't matter. I guess you must have not practiced for a long time, right? Believe me, you will get your feeling back soon here. Bullet patted Ron on the back and comforted him. Chapter 500 Cooperation from the Air Force. IRS Base Underground Laboratory. Why are you here so late today? I thought you were kidnapped, so I'll send someone to look for you soon. We've encountered something. What's that? Clothes? Have you changed jobs, Ron? After leaving Fortis Security, Ron went directly to the base's laboratory without changing his clothes. Here, Sheldon and his team are conducting the final research phase of the commercial application of new batteries. It's true that the battery that Ron gave to Musk before was a successful sample, but there is one thing he didn't say, is that the cost of this sample is destined to make the car price ridiculously high if it is used for commercial purposes. Except for a few rich people, no one can afford that thing. Therefore, Sheldon and his team's current job is to try their best to reduce the cost of the battery without affecting the performance as much as possible. Of course, this can't be said that Ron cheated Musk. In business, it has always been a common practice in this field to first sign a contract with a powerful experimental sample machine, and then continue research with the other party's money. Seriously speaking, Ron is better than many people. Unlike some people, who don't even have a sample, but just take a PPT and dare to go around to cheat money. No, it's just that I have no one to use, so I have to go undercover myself, Ron said with resentment. What about you? Did you encounter any trouble? Ron keenly noticed that Raj's expression was a little wrong. We met someone from the military looking for Howard. This is his business card. He wants us to call him. Raj handed over a business card and said with lingering fear, it's really scary. Ron glanced at the name on the name, Colonel Williams, who belongs to the U.S. Air Force. Ron guessed that it might be because Howard had been in space and had a record with the space agency, so it is very likely that the files on Howard's computer have been secretly read by the Air Force. This is not surprising. The US government can even use the prison gate to monitor everyone, so it is easy to monitor the computer files of a few small scientists. How scary is it? He gave me his business card and asked me to pass it to Howard. That doesn't sound scary. Sheldon was confused. Native white Americans certainly don't think so, but if you are brown and your name has many syllables, you'll be scared. Okay, immigration issues have always been a long-standing problem for the American government. Raj has been questioned by the police more than once or twice because of his skin color. Although the United States is a capitalist country, Raj, who was born in India, should be respected, but Raj's usual dress is too low-key, and he looks like a loser who has smuggled from India. It is difficult for people to associate him with his real wealth status. This is bad, Ron. You know, if the military declares that what we are researching is confidential, they can take the entire research away, right? Leonard worried. Like Howard, he also needs money, even more urgently than Howard. Howard at least has the big house left by his mother, and Bernadette herself has a good income, so the burden of raising a child is not that heavy for them, but Leonard is different. He and Penny are still sharing a house with Sheldon, and Penny spends money lavishly. If that happens, we will never be able to sell it for commercial use, Howard also said worriedly. We will have to say goodbye to such a large sum of money. I don't want it. I was counting on it to make me earn the same as my wife, so that I don't have to work so hard in bed. Do you need this too? Leonard was a little surprised. Howard spread his hands. Of course, otherwise how do you think I stay so thin? Good cars consume a lot of gas, and good women consume a lot of men. This is a truth that is universally applicable. Even as strong as Ron, he has to come out to replenish himself from time to time, otherwise his body would have collapsed long ago. Don't worry, they won't do that. I'm still here, and just when he was worried, Ron patted him on the back and comforted him. Maybe this is a good thing for us. Do I need to remind you that what we agreed with Musk was just a patent licensing agreement? We didn't sell the patent to him, which means we can kill two birds with one stone. If the Air Force wants it, we will sell it again. Oh my God, guys, they are just angels who come to give us money. I can't help but want to open champagne to celebrate. Wait, it seems to be true. Several friends woke up from their dreams, came to their senses, hugged each other excitedly and jumped up and down. Ron was right, this didn't seem to be a bad thing. If the patent was sold to them at the beginning according to Musk's requirements, their practice would undoubtedly be an infringement, but Ron did not do so, but chose the path of patent licensing. Patent licensing can license multiple companies or individuals at the same time. Ron was thinking about finding a few more suckers to pay for their research recently, but now he doesn't need to take the initiative to find them, and the suckers come to him. Then if I call him, what time can I make an appointment? 2 weeks later. If he is very urgent, tell him my name. The project is funded by the finance department. This can be done to dry up the Air Force and get a better price for the subsequent negotiations. On the other hand, it is also because Ron is temporarily busy and he has to go to the security company to continue his undercover work. The next day, at Forrest's security company, Bullet took Ron and Arthur to meet new colleagues, and they started working directly. Ron and Arthur were separated and each was led by an old man. The first job Ron was assigned was to escort banknotes for the bank. Your performance yesterday was really good, but it was a pity that your shooting skills were really bad at the end, causing me to lose $20. The sweaty boy Dave, the driver of their escort team, was driving next to Ron and chatting with him. Ron sat in the co-pilot seat, and Bullet sat behind them. The three of them formed a standard escort team. No way, I don't like automatic pistols. If I shoot with my own gun, the results will definitely be much better. Ron touched the holster on his waist. Inside was a Colt Python revolver that was assigned to him at his strong request. In the words of the old man who manages the warehouse, this gun is older than me. Are you really sure you want to use this antique? Of course, as long as it is well maintained and can still fire, I will choose it. The Colt Python revolver was produced in 1955. If this is regarded as its birthday, he is 72 years old today. The old man who guards the armory, although he looks very old, is only about 50 years old at most. The escort vehicle first drove to the door of the bank and stopped. After loading $15 million into the car one bag at a time, Bullet received a text message, which was the company's notification of their route. Before they got the money, no one knew where to send the money and what route to take. This is one of the ways the security company ensures the safety of the escort. However, in Ron's opinion, the formal effect of this method is far greater than its actual effect, because before Bullet received the route information, where to go, what route to take, he already had a general idea. Every day, the escort car travels between several fixed banks or vaults. In fact, there are not many tricks that can be played on the route. At most, there are more detours at a certain intersection. As long as experienced security personnel or kidnappers know the location of the bank or vault, the route is very easy to guess. If he is a robber, he can make a fortune by robbing money transporters in minutes. Is the casino far away? Why did Bullet take so long to get there? Ron asked. He had a bad feeling in his heart. Would there be a problem with the first escort? It's only about 200 meters from here. He should have been back 5 minutes ago, unless he was entangled by the bunny girls in the casino. Dave grinned and made an obscene gesture. Sexy dealers deal cards online. You know, the bunny girls in the casino will bite people. I think it's better for you to contact him. Ron pointed to the intercom. Okay, it's troublesome to bring a rookie with you, Dave said impatiently, and took out the intercom. Bullet, why did you take so long? However, there was no response from the intercom, and a trace of panic flashed across Dave's face. Bullet, where are you? Please reply if you get it. Please don't scare me. Zizzy. The intercom finally sent back a sound, but in addition to the zizzy sound of electricity, there was the sound of men's panting and beating. After all this, a deep male voice said, lower your head. If you see my face, you're dead. Then, the intercom seemed to be picked up by someone, and the male voice just now continued, listen, pretty boys, if you still want to see your girlfriends, then do what I say. At this time, even a fool would know that something was wrong. Ron rolled his eyes. He didn't expect that there would be a problem on the first day of work. It seems that the problem may be solved much faster than he thought. This is really a bunch of stupid thieves. They knew that there was a newcomer in the company, but they started to act before they found out his bottom line. Dave was so scared that he quickly dropped the intercom and hurriedly unbuckled his seat belt. Should I make a call now? There is a procedure for this situation. We have to drive the car away. Yes, that's it. We have to go now. Dave hurriedly started the car. What did you say? What they want is not the $100,000, but the money in the armored car, the remaining $15 million in the car. Dave stepped on the accelerator and the car rushed forward. We have to drive the car away, so that they won't hurt her and won't kill him for $100,000. Calm down, Dave. Are you sure you should do this? I think you should think about it again. Ron turned the key and said with a smile. Dave was almost crazy because of his action. Reconsider. Dave's eyes widened. The company's regulations are designed to deal with this kind of situation. We only have 2 guns, but we don't know how many people are over there. Give me the keys quickly. You will get us all killed. Listen, coward, if you don't want to call for help, then get out of the car now. Ron grabbed his collar and said viciously, we can't abandon her. She is our companion, but the money is not. The money in the car does not belong to us. If it's gone, it's gone. No one can buy our lives with money, understand? We have to rescue him. Dave hesitated and stared at Ron's face. At this moment, the robber's voice came from the walkie-talkie again. I will delete this pretty boy in a minute. Now turn the key to start the car. Stop when I tell you to. This undoubtedly asked them to give the money to the robbers. Ron stared at Dave's face and put the keys back in his hand. Do you choose to be a hero for 3 minutes, or a coward for a lifetime? It's time for you to make a decision. Damn it. I'm going all out. Dave gritted his teeth, restarted the car, and drove out along the path. As if someone was watching them, the robber kept giving new instructions, guiding them to drive the money transporter all the way to another more deserted street. Stop now, the robber said on the intercom. As soon as the car stopped, 2 pickup trucks suddenly rushed out, sandwiching the money transporter in the middle, one in front and one behind. Bullet was tied up and pulled out of the car by the robber. Listen, your friend is in my hands now. He is nothing to us. The robber knocked Bullet to the ground with the butt of his gun. Now open that broken door for me, then pick up the money and throw it into the cargo box of the pickup truck behind. Don't play any tricks. If you open the door now, they will kill the 3 of us and take the money away. You have to think clearly. Dave pressed Ron's hand and said nervously. The energy of driving just now passed, and he began to hesitate again. Ron couldn't help but laugh in his heart. With such little courage, he still came to do security. It was so funny. There were only a few people. It was just a small scene. He had seen bigger scenes than this. Dave, just put your heart at ease. Leave the rest to me. I promise that you will go home safely today. Maybe you can go to the small casino just now and let the bunny girl bite you. Ron patted Dave's hand, walked to the back and opened the door. The moment he opened the door, Dave had already crawled under the seat with a rifle. Outside the money transporter, the robbers blocking the front of the car pressed the bullets on the ground, pointed a gun at him with one hand, and held a walkie-talkie in the other hand. It was him who gave them orders just now. Opposite the rear door, there was another pickup truck with unclear numbers of people sitting in it, but no one got off the car. They just put the cargo box facing the door and waited for Ron to throw the money on it. Do you think it will be foolproof? I have to say, this is really a group of naive robbers. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.